You're listening to Ernestly Speaking, the only weekly podcast that covers friends, foes, and anything that goes. And now, for your badass host, Ernest Owens.
And we're back with another episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. Well, if you're listening to this episode in Philadelphia or the East Coast, you're probably enjoying your time off, hopefully, warm and snuggled in during this blizzard. There's been a lot going on lately with this weather. We were doing good. The snow was melting. Nature was healing. Concrete was out. That's all not happening now because the snow wants to come in and enter the chat. And I guess we should start believing in Groundhog Day because we were told by the groundhog that we were going to get, more winter. And I thought maybe it was a myth. Maybe it's just some propaganda. But unfortunately, I don't know. It might just be what it is. And we are back in, snowed in, and I know my students at CCP are enjoying this. Well, here's the thing. Next week, okay, is spring break. So the first week of March is spring break. So there will be no classes I don't have to teach for that whole week. These Monday and Wednesdays when I teach, and there are some major projects they're working on, and they're supposed to be turning it in at the end of February because I wanted them to finish their project and enjoy their spring break, and then we'll see each other, the following week after that. But, it's just, listen, they're going to have to make it do what it do. They're going to have to just, work in virtual silos. They can't go outside, but all these assignments that they have coming up, it's just going to be interesting. But nonetheless, it is going to be interesting. I mean, my Monday is really much my teaching day, so no, I'm chill. But I'm going to use this time to keep deep diving into my book, which is great. I'm really in the throes. Like I'm in it. I'm in that writer mode. I'm enjoying the journey. I'm really enjoying the experience. Like I'm halfway in the book, and this is that part where you've gotten past the introductory things. You're really in the throttle, and it's been fun. It's really been fun. I hope you can hear my excitement and all of that as we navigate. And I got more to say about that in the minute, but let's get into Mr. Johnson's party. A lot of you all saw the videos and things online. We were at Chateau Rouge, which is that black woman-owned African French cuisine BYOB on South Street, or the gentrifiers call it Graduate Hospital, but whatever. It's over there, and it's a lovely restaurant. It's been open for roughly a year and some change, and I fell in love with it when we went to dinner there at the end of last year, and I think I did like a little review about it. I told you all about Chateau Rouge, but I wanted to come back in a big way. I really love the space, and we did a buyout. Whole restaurant was all ours. And, I put together this lovely party. All of his friends came. A lot of our mutual friends came. It was a lovely showing. A lot of folks that we went to college with and everyone. It was just a really great party. Everyone comes out. Candace was there, who I think that was her first time actually. A lot of people that went, I would say 90% of the people that were there was their first time going, and they was in love with it. And I was looking for a black-owned restaurant that was different than what everyone goes to. Like everyone has a party out South Side right next to South, which there's nothing wrong with that. I love South Side, I love South. But I was like, where are the spots? I mean, Booker's. Anyway, there's just, I just wanted something that was different. Like I wanted something that was not the typical fried chicken and waffles. Like I wanted something different, but fun, but new and hip. And Chateau Rouge embodies all of those things. And yeah, it was a great time. It was a really great birthday. Mr. Johnson had a very clear birthday list. He wanted Trader Joe's gift cards or Whole Foods gift cards. Very, very specific man. And he had hundreds of dollars and lovely gifts. Thank you all so much for coming and everyone who showed up. It was just a great party. The food was incredible. The hospitality, it was awesome. And one fun, interesting fact: one of my students, the owner of the restaurant is a relative of his, and he actually works there. And so I go and I'm like, "What are you doing here?" And it's him. It's his family's restaurant. Small world, yeah. And so that was kind of fun. It was kind of hilarious because it's like in class I talk about like, all the things I do and my life and things. And my students, in this day and age with social media, students look up their professors. I mean, when I was in college, my professors, it was like the early 2010s. You could Google, Google was still working and things, but it wasn't the way it is now. Like I feel like, especially myself, I'm a very out there professor. So my students, they try to act like they don't know, but then they make like subtle references. Like they say certain things. Like I was like, oh yeah, the mayor. And then somebody just kind of chuckled. And I was like, why are you chuckling? And they were like, no reason. And they were chuckling because they later on was like, oh, I don't think you're a fan of her. I'm like, how would you know that? Because in class, I don't, discuss my politics or anything like that aggressively or anything. So it was almost like you've been snooping. And so some of them I can tell like they laugh and giggle at certain things, or I was like, oh, I had a long weekend. They're like, oh, they were like, it's all that. So it's kind of tongue in cheek. And I try to also recognize the dynamics because I am in my early 30s. A lot of my students are across generations. So some of them are in their 40s. There are also some of them in their mid 30s. A lot of them are in their 20s. And so a lot of them are adults. And so, we're all adults. So it's a very different dynamic than having, a very, very super young audience where there's that age dynamic. We're all pretty much around a range of age. Like a lot of them are within a 10-year range of me. So either they are, within 10 years or 10 years further. It's like that. Either most of my students are either less than 10 years younger than me or less than 10 years older than me, like that middle range. So I would say the core would be between 25, like between 20 and 40 is the range. The youngest is in 20, the oldest is 40. Like they're in that time span of age length. And then here I am like deep in the 30. So I'm like in the median age of my class. So it's very interesting. So I don't treat them like they're like youngins. Most of them are around my age or a little older than me. So it's funny how they just know what's going on. But yeah, so the party was great. I want to say something, and I'm talking in general, and someone who listens to this show is going to laugh at me because they're going to be like, listen, I'm just going to say this. This is a very general thing. As a person who throws parties and events and is very specific about my invitations and about etiquette and about things. Not talking about anything in particular, maybe not. But I just want to say this to those, we're in a season of birthdays and parties and events. And I think sometimes it's just important to just be reminded of like impact versus intention. So not talking about anything in particular, but I would just say this. I think it's very important for people not to recognize that hard launching a new relationship at a very social event that is not your own can be read as tone deaf. So while we are in spaces where people will negotiate or deal with certain things, I think it's important not to hard launch like new relationships and familiar spaces. So if it's a graduation party and you were divorced and you decide to hard launch your new girlfriend at a family member's, graduation party, that might be a little tone deaf. Or your best friend is having a birthday and you just had a very public, messy breakup with your ex or long-term fiance, and you decide to hard launch a new relationship at said birthday party, when the birthday party of their spouse, you were trying to get a date with one of their friends and you went on that date and then you turn around and you show up with a new person. Like, I just think, just hypothetically, I just think that it's important to just read the room. I'm not saying grown folks can't be grown folks and have their life and have their experiences, but I also think that it's important not to take attention away from other things happening in place. Even if a person might be not the social police is saying, don't do that thing, there's just certain things you just recognize, right? So I think about, when I first got with Mr. Johnson when I was in college, my friend Dr. Parks, my bestie, she had a birthday party, housewarming party. Now, at the time, she had like a mixer. I was like, hey, I've been talking to this guy, the guy being Mr. Johnson at the time. She had heard of him. I told her about him. Now, when I had my birthday party, I brought him out to the first thing, but I didn't. Was we together then? We were just friends then. Yeah, we weren't dating then. We were just friends. He came to my birthday party. He came to part 1 of my birthday party. He didn't come to part 2. He didn't come to the dinner party. He came to the little pregame I had the night before when we went to the club. He didn't go to the dinner party. I thought that was too soon. But we weren't dating then. We were like, it was like that, I like you. We was crushing, but it wasn't like a date. It wasn't serious dating then. But by January that following year, 2014, which was like basically a month before we became like what they say Facebook official, we were at that point we were like an item, like, But I was very like on the mind of like, don't want to bring him out. But my friend was very nosy, Dr. Barr. She's like, oh no, bring him. I want to scope him out. And I said, okay, well, if you want to, but I wasn't thinking about doing that. But she offered, and I was like, okay. But he came. He was very chill, very reserved. It was a very chill situation. This is indifference when you don't tell anybody. No one knows you're talking to somebody brand new. No one knows you're bringing this person. No one knows that you was even with somebody. And you just got out of a major breakup and then come in with a new person. You bring the person is in the mix and they're very like social. They want to mix and mingle people. And you're kind of like, who was this, Harpo? Who's this woman, Harpo? Like that. And so I just say all that to say in general, if you're in a position right now, you done went to Valentine's Day, met somebody, got a new boo, please don't hard launch your relationship. Don't bring this person into a space before running it by your crew, by your people. And also, like, can we also be adults here and recognize that, we're at that age, and I'm talking about my people in their 30s, 40s, my more grown folks. If you're in your 20s, like I tell my brother, like I have my younger brother, he's 22. He'll be 23 next month. Like I tell him, like his world is very different. Like I remember where I was at his age. Like the social rules are very different for the Gen Zers. But to my millennials, Gen Xers and boomers, let's be very clear. When you get to a certain age, like birthday parties, familiar settings, it's more than just a gathering of friends. It's like family. Like the people who was at Mr. Johnson's birthday, they're friends, they're family. We go out, we all gather at least 3 times a year, maybe more for like gatherings of sorts, birthday parties. It's a gathering. It's a very intimate group. And a lot of these individuals know each other through these gatherings. We keep up with each other's lives. It's like a very close, intimate thing. And so when a new person enters the space, you kind of gotta like come in and like ease in, but you also gotta be in a space where you, the person that's bringing the new person, has had to vet them. And not only vet them, but the person hosting the party has to know who that person is to feel comfortable to bring them into space. Because if it goes left and you already have a track record of bringing people into space that are not necessarily good people, then it gets a little left. And it gets a little like, okay, well, what if this goes south? Like nobody wants to be liable for somebody being problematic in a certain space. So I'm always big on energy and vibe and temperature. And whereas the party, of course, was not soured by this and nothing, it's just one of those things where it was an item where people were like, who's that? Where it's like me as the master of ceremonies, like I am just a really detailed, thoughtful curator of events and people and things that it's just like consideration is key. So I always just tell people, don't use, because I had a situation recently. Well, when at my wedding, there was a particular person who I'm no longer friends with, that kind of, which I didn't even realize, basically publicly made my wedding the premiere of their relationship with the person they're with. They're still with this person years later. No ring or anything like that, of course. But they're still with the person. And they used my wedding, and they were in my wedding. They were in my wedding party, but they gave a poem at my wedding. For those who know, you know, you know, you know. I ain't gonna name the name. They might be the president of NABJ currently. Anyway, but they heart launched their relationship at my wedding, and I didn't even realize it. And it was kind of abrupt in a way where I didn't realize until after the fact. And I'm just like, you know what? Some people just don't have class. Some people just don't have tact. Some people are just tacky. Some people are just kind of just so self-absorbed into themselves that they can't sometimes consider other people because they so badly want something that they don't understand other people's boundaries. Consideration is key. Like, as much as you might want something for yourself, recognize the boundaries of your friends. And I'm not a difficult friend. I am not. I am actually very easygoing. But I think as I've gotten older, I have become more, like, I sometimes feel like some people don't consider me in the same ways that I consider them. And I've recognized over the years, and I've begun to vet and navigate relationships and friendships where there's just certain things I'm not going to call on demand of my friends because I just wouldn't want someone to do that to me. And I think some people like to just nudge and nudge and nudge at things because they want what they want and they just want what they like. And they don't realize, hey, maybe we're not aligned on this. Maybe we don't do things the same way. Maybe these are certain things that just are not just things that mesh. And just because you like that don't mean I have to fucking like it. Or maybe if that's how you do that, but don't do it on my turf. And so I just think consideration is just key. That I've learned to embrace people who they are. And if there are some strong things I don't like about them that are just so strong that's unbearable, then maybe I don't have to be friends with them. Like, for example, I'm not friends with anybody that's Republican. I'm not. I don't have any friends in my life that are Republicans. If they are, they might be hiding it from me, but I don't know. I tried that many years ago. I had a friend, a former friend, that was a black Republican. Never do that shit again. But they were. And, you know, it was a different time in my life. It was not my life, in their life and everything. It was just very different. But but that was many, 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 many years ago. That's not, we talk about Mitt Romney era and then some early Trump, but like, they didn't agree with Trump all the way. It was just weird. It was weird. It was just, the relationship just did not last, which was unfortunate in some cases, but in other ways, good riddance. But there's just some things that's fundamental. I'm not friends with anybody that's homophobic, at least in my circle. If you're homophobic and I know you're like, it's just, I mean, first of all, that's just weird. But like, there's just certain things I'm just not going to accept. There's just certain things that's non-negotiables for me. And I feel like when it comes to your personal space and your friendship space, you have every right to be prejudiced about who you want to hang out with and how you and views. I feel like it's one thing to co-work and coexist with people that you work with. And I think to some degree, family might be somewhat of tolerance in some cases. Barely, though, on that front, to be honest. But when it comes to my friendship levels, friends are chosen. You choose who you want to be friends with. You choose the relationship that you want to maintain in that type of space. So as I'm a journalist, I have to, by nature, work with different opposing views and cover things and all the things and not be biased. I get that. But that's not my personal life, though. That's not my friendship circle. Like, I do not have to tolerate bigotry and hatred in my personal life. I don't have to tolerate that. I don't have to tolerate womanizers and all type. I don't have to tolerate that kind of shit in my personal life. And so sometimes you have to tell some people, hey, I gotta love you from afar, or I gotta have some distance, or look, I'm just not gonna, that there's a level of disrespect that I'm not comfortable with. Especially if you disrespecting me and mine. You know, there's just certain things I'm just not going to tolerate. And I've learned to accept the decisions or the quote unquote consequences that come with that. Because there are situations where I just can't. I just can't. You know what I mean? I just can't. I just have to be like, it's not good for me. And I think people want to force relationships. And sometimes you just have to be like, hey, that's a boundary. And so I say all to say, if you're a friend and you're in situations where you want to, you reconciling friends and boundaries and things, just be considerate and be mindful. Not everything is worth nudging. Not everything is worth shaking the table. Sometimes let things be the way they be or gradually work towards a conversation. But these hard launches people are doing nowadays, baby, you know, just saying. So outside of this week, there was the Winter Olympics. The Winter Olympics are happening. Now, I told you I wasn't really watching, but I got invited to an event for the Winter Olympics with Comcast. And me and my good Judy Charnay, we hit up the event. We went together. It was fun. She was in the area, lawyer lady. And we went to the event. It was really dope. It was a fun event. We got some swag. If you keep seeing me in this black bomber jacket that says Team USA, it's from them. I really like the jacket. It was one, they gave out some really exclusive, like really nice swag. And it's like design in the jackets that the Olympics are wearing, but this was like a really nice designer. It's really fly. So if you've been seeing me in this like black like jacket a little bit, y'all been seeing me. Y'all like, ooh, Ernest looking like the Trey. That's because it was a gift from them and it was very nice. So shout out to Comcast, who's also going to be one of our top sponsors for our upcoming PABJ Media Professional Awards, which is on Friday, May 15th at Del Frisco's Double Eagle Steakhouse. If you want to go, tickets are going to go on sale like in, I believe, April. We're going to be announcing honorees in, I believe, March. But the honorees have been confirmed. Everyone is confirmed. We got some big honorees. We have not announced them yet publicly, of course, but they're coming soon. But this event is going to be that Friday luncheon, the PABJ Media Professional Awards. You cannot miss it. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be epic. We're going to have so much fun, and it is going to be co-hosted by myself and my good Judy, who is the associate membership chair for PABJ. I always like to call her Madam Chairwoman Sharon Cooks. She is going to be co-hosting this lovely event with me. We're going to be inside the Vault of Del Frisco's. If you've been, it's fabulous. If you've never been, the best way to describe it is like the PABJ gala that we have every November. It's always like, it's the gala. It's always very much glamorous. It's an evening event. It's all of that, right? Fabulous event. Lots of all of that, right? That's very glamorous and it's very upscale. It's all the things. The thing about it is that it's very, more, it's like the Oscars. I would describe the Media Professional Awards as the Golden Globes. It's like the Golden Globes. It's very funny. It's tabled. It's all of the fun. It's very mixy in a very cool way. It's not just journalists, media professionals, influence. It's like a very fun party. So, and it's in the daytime. It's on a Friday afternoon. So people eat and get drunk. It's like day drink, not drunk, but they have a good time. And it's like very fun. And shout out to our liquor sponsor, Tito's Handmade Vodka, who's going to be sponsoring our liquor sponsor and one of our premier sponsors for this event as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We got so many great people, so many great honorees that we cannot wait to announce. We have so many great sponsors chiming in. The tickets are $150. But it's all inclusive and it goes to support the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists, which is a 501c3 nonprofit. So it is a fundraiser for the organization, but it's also a very important, powerful event Lots of important people are going to be there. This is an opportunity to get some face time. If you're in the media industry, if you're a nonprofit, if you're a business leader, if you're somebody who wants to get in the face of media professionals and you want to make those meaningful connections and you want to be in a room with some true movers and shakers and you want to get out and be around Black professionals in general, come, okay? Do not walk, but run. Come, okay, to the Media Professional Awards luncheon, which will be on Friday, May 15th. Okay. Friday, May 15th. Put on your calendars. Okay. Get these tickets. These tickets are going to go on sale very soon. When they do, of course, I'm going to put the link in the bio. I'm going to tell y'all where to go to get them. Y'all going to be good. But I just wanted to put that out there because a lot of you all see me at events or you say to me, oh, I want to be out with you. I want to go to this. I want to go to that. Well, I try to do events, public facing events that are for a good cause. A lot of you all want to support Black organizations and institutions. Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists is a great institution. And of course I'm saying, so I'm the proud president. Like, we want you to come. We want your support. Now more than ever, it's important. And what's special about this year's event is that it's actually days before the big primary, the Democratic primary, which is going to be on Tuesday, May 19th. So there might be some congressional candidates showing. There might be some other big names showing. You don't know who gonna come. There's always elected officials. There's always candidates. It's always a fun to do. So you've been told, save the date. We'll see you in less than 3 months. So moving on to reviews, I saw for Mr. Johnson's birthday. So Mr. Johnson's birthday, as you all know, was on Tuesday, February 17th. So his birthday's on the 17th of February. That's his actual birthday. We had a lovely dinner that evening and we went to go see Beauty and the Beast, the musical, the Broadway musical, but it's going on a national tour. It's at Ensemble Arts at the Academy of Music, which we went. It was phenomenal. I didn't realize how much I love Beauty and the Beast, but I didn't also realize how much I love it's actually when it came out, so it's always going to be special to me because Beauty and the Beast came out in 1991, which is the year I was born, and it actually came out roughly a month after I was born. So both myself and Beauty and the Beast are turning 35 years old this year. Like, Beauty and the Beast has been out for 35 years. It's a tale as old as time, and it's one of the most iconic Disney films of all time. Also one of the most iconic animated films of all time. It is the first animated film to ever be nominated for the Academy Award for Best Picture. Several other films have since then been nominated. Not too many, but some have also been nominated since then, right? Like Toy Story 3, Up was nominated. A couple other animated films have since been nominated for Best Picture. It's not that often, though. It's not that many who have. And that's a big deal because it's not often that has happened in history. There's only been 3 films, only 3 animated films in history to be nominated. It was Beauty and the Beast in 1991, Up in 2009, and then Toy Story 3 in 2010. And to be clear, Up and Toy Story 3 were Pixar films. Just saying. Beauty and the Beast is one of my favorite. And let me also add why that was a big deal too about Beauty and the Beast. Beauty and the Beast was the first animated film to be nominated for Best Picture, which was historic for the medium, because this was before the Best Animated Feature category was introduced. So people will be talking about animation, and I think that's a big deal because Beauty and the Beast back then in 1991, Best Picture only had 5 slots. So for Beauty and the Beast to be in that category was a big deal, right? Up and Toy Story 3, those other categories were opened up to like other additional slots beyond 5. So most films now get like 10 to 9 to Best Picture slots get nominated. So there's a lot of options, and it's almost impossible at this point to snub, animated films, right? But the animated film category came around, I think it came around like 2000 and maybe like 2002. And the first film to win Best Animated Feature is one of my favorite animated films of all time, Spirited Away. And that is just a beautiful film, actually. It came out in 2001. And it was I believe it was the first film to win the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature. Yeah, it was the first. Yeah, it was the first animated film to win Best Animated Feature at the 75th Academy Awards. And it is considered one of the greatest animated films ever made. It is Spirited Away. I highly recommend it. If you have not seen that film, which is going to be celebrating 25 years. Yeah, it came out. Yeah, it's going to be 25 years old. I was 10 years old when the film came out. It's going to be 25 years old this year. Listen, millennials, we're getting old, y'all. We're getting older. That's crazy. The 25th anniversary of Spirited Away is this year. So we've come a long way. 10 years after Beauty and Beast comes the Best Animated Feature category, which then people thought, okay, we're going to put the animated films in the animated category. But I always argued that why can't they compete with Best Picture the same way that foreign language films have now entered the chat with the Best Picture category? But I digress. That's my cinema studies head coming on. Great questions to be asked in cinema, and I want some scholars to tell me about it. But anyway, Beauty and Beast, the musical, of course, came out on Broadway years later after the film was a smash. The on-stage musical adaptation is just as fabulous and as riveting as the anime version. Anime version, of course, has its own uniqueness, but I love the fact that it has that the songs always lend themselves to a Broadway sound. Alan Menken and Howard Ashman, the late great Howard Ashman, that was his last film he worked on before he passed away, was Beauty and Beast, which is also a deeper story. He died from AIDS compilations, Howard Ashman did. Alan Menken, who was his collaborative partner, went on to do other great films and win Academy Awards. He won, of course, for Little Mermaid. He won for Beauty and Beast. He ended up working on, he's won several Academy Awards, actually. Alan Menken is a big deal. He's still out there doing great Disney films, but he was during the Disney Renaissance, which is, this is his music. Great guy who, did wonderful films. They worked on Broadway together with, what's that Broadway musical? Little Shop of Horrors. And a lot of people forget about that aspect of his work. But some of the films that Alan Menken worked on was Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, the Little Mermaid, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Pocahontas. He has won several Academy Awards. He's won 8 Grammys. He's won a Tony. He's won 8 Academy Awards, and he's won a Daytime Emmy. He is an EGOT. Okay, he's an EGOT. Some of the films he's worked on for Disney is The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Pocahontas. He won 2 Academy Awards for each of those films. Y'all heard that correctly. He won 2 Oscars, Best Score and Song for Little Mermaid, Best Song and Score for Beauty and the Beast, Best Song and Score for Aladdin, and Best Song and Score for Pocahontas. Okay? 8 Academy Awards. Incredible. Now he's worked on Little Shop of Horrors, Newsies, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Hercules, Home on the Range, Enchanted, Tangled, Disenchanted, and Spellbound. Okay, he's worked on some other stuff. He won a Tony for Best Original Score for Newsies, which came out in 2012. The guy is impeccable, okay? But Howard Ashman worked with him too. He worked with Howard Ashman, who they worked together for the songs and music of Beauty and the Beast, which is incredible work. Again, Beauty and the Beast is like one of my all-time favorites. Like, everyone's like, what's your favorite anime film? I struggle sometimes, y'all. It's a tie. It's a tie between The Lion King and Beauty and the Beast as my all-time favorite animated Disney films of all time. It's between those two. Like, depending on my mood, I'll say Beauty and the Beast, but then I might change my mind and say Lion King. Because The Lion King pulls at my, like, childhood in so many different ways. Beauty and the Beast pulls at my queerness. You know what it is? Both of my identities pull at it. Like, my Broadway, musical, gay, show tunes loving self loves Beauty and the Beast for all of those reasons. But my black intercultural love of Africa, but also just love for like, there's a lot of it's just like spiritualness connects to the Lion King in a weird way. So the answer is both. I can't put my finger on one. They both speak to my identities. The Lion King, and Beauty and the Beast are my all-time favorite Disney animated films. I love so many other films, but those are my two like favorite ones. So it's at Ensemble Arts. I think that it's wrapping up actually. But if you can get a chance to follow the hype around it, please do. They're currently on Broadway. I think the not Broadway, the tour at Ensemble Arts, it was from February 11th to 22nd. So yeah, basically they're out of town now because of the snow. But I just want to say it was a great show. And if you could ever watch it again or catch it somewhere else, try to watch it. I mean, it's a great time. And they also add songs that's not in the original animated film. So 2 songs they add. The Beast has a song in the Broadway version, the musical version of the Beauty and the Beast, that is great. I won't tell when it is and what it's about, but it's a great song. There's also another act which is in the deluxe edition of Beauty and the Beast, the special edition that came out like 20 years ago. Oh my God, 20 years ago. It's the so Disney used to have this thing called the Platinum Edition for millennials that had DVDs. Remember the 2-disc DVD sets they did for all the classes and they remastered them for DVD, like the Lion King 2-disc DVD set. Aladdin had a Platinum Edition 2-disc DVD set. Beauty and the Beast did. Like, remember when they did all that? They did with Snow White. They had these Platinum Editions. They were like these 2-disc DVD sets with bonus materials. Please tell me y'all remember that. Like, let's get nostalgic here. Well, Beauty and the Beast had a version of that, and in the new version, they remastered it and they added a new song that was a part of the film called Human Again. That was on the Broadway show, and that was also included in this version. I can't even watch Beauty and the Beast without watching Human Again added. And if you actually go on Disney Plus, I do believe that the Disney Plus version does include Human Again added to it. So, just a fun fact. Do as you please, but just a fun fact. It's funny because Disney did it with Lion King. They added this song called Morning Report to the Lion King at the beginning. Zazu had a song. It was called Morning Report, but I digress. I love films. I do. I love films. I love talking about them. So yeah, it was a great show. So as far as my media appearances go, I did my show on the record on 96.1 FM, 900 AM, Progressive Black Talk Media, on the record on Word Radio. My special guest was Carl E. Singley, which I had on the previous week, but we had some new updates to talk about in pertaining to, some stuff happened with the park administration, which we're going to get into. And before I transition to hot topics, I want to talk about this weekend. This weekend, Saturday, February 21st, was a big day. It was the 3rd anniversary of my debut book, The Case for Cancel Culture. Oh, the world was never the same 3 years ago when that book dropped. And it hasn't been the same since. It has opened so many doors in my career. It has been a major, pillar of the way that I think about social issues, the way that I talk about them. It opened so many doors as far as my creativity and my understanding of the world around me. And it was a major milestone in my career because I became an author. Like, it opened up a door that I always dreamed of, which was to be an author, to write books. And there's so many lessons I learned from that entire experience and where I was in my life when that book came out. And to now be working on its sibling, that was my baby, my firstborn. Now I'm working on, getting ready, due my second baby, Divided We Stand, is due. It's funny because that book is an Aquarius book. And I am proud to tell you all that was a winter book, an early spring book. This next book is going to drop in the fall of 2027. My new book is coming out fall 2027. I won't tell too much, but there is a timing with this book. There's some developments in the book that I will not share, but there's going to be some really fun things. It's going to actually be perfect timing and coinciding with the upcoming presidential election, because we were looking at the timetables. We got the midterms this year, which are great, which is fine, right? But we realized 2027 is going to be the year everyone's going to announce they're running for president. And this book wants to serve as a discussion piece in a forecast to anchor in on what's going to happen in the 2028 election. And so to drop the book fall 2027 is in that really great crux and intersection of being a discussion that's going to be a part of the 2028, campaigns and election cycle and things and discussions. And this book is going to serve as an anchor to that conversation. And so I'm really excited about what this is going to bring and how it's going to shake the room and what's it going to mean. And I think about my book, The Case for Cancel Culture. It came out in 2023, but we weren't in a really contested race. Like, this is an open election. Like, Trump is getting out. We're going to see, is there going to be some Republican opposition as far as Republican nominees? Like, we're going to have a really open race for everybody all involved. This book is going to really navigate and question, will there be some new stand-ums, right? Are we going to see the end of mega stand-um? Are we, the K-Hive, like what's going on, right? So it's going to be a really great discussion. And so strategically, it makes sense for the book to drop fall 2027. So I'm excited about that. Stay tuned. But I wanted to drop that update on the 3rd anniversary of The Case for Cancel Culture, which is still around. The audiobook is still out. Books are still being sold. Check it out. And catch up. Read the book. It was really fun. It was a fan who bought the book, and actually posted it and really praised the 3rd anniversary and was just saying how this book still means a lot to them and they can connect to the subject matter. So that was really touching. And so I really cannot wait to, have these conversations and keep the conversation dialogues going. So stay tuned on that. Okay. Just stay tuned. More to come. It's going to be a good time. Okay. It's going to be a really good time. And, it's going to be a really good time, to really unpack some of the stuff that was happening, and taking place. But man, this journey, I cannot tell you all how excited I am about writing this book. I just cannot. It's just so fun. Like, it doesn't feel like a chore at all. And I want to emphasize that. So, on to hot topics. There's been a lot happening in this Trump administration, but we had a very unique moment. Because that's the way to say it. A unique moment. We don't get too many of the smackdowns from the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court sometimes pop up and, do something. And we had that moment. This was a major setback for the Trump administration. Basically, the court ruled that, he kind of did his authority. He exceeded it. This is going to force, the administration is arguing that because they lost this on all those big tariffs he did, that it could force the government to unwind trade deals and make them have to pay these huge fines to importers. Well, y'all know how I feel about it. You shouldn't did it then. You shouldn't did it. You should have never got in the middle of that. But they did. They were pressed. They were so pressed to have this moment and, make this a thing that now we're in some shit, but you should never touched it. Like, there were many people that was saying this, and he's claiming that he now wants to raise the global tariffs to 15%. Like, what? And now he's getting petty. He is no longer endorsing this Republican representative from Colorado who voted with the Democrats to cancel his tariffs on Canada. It's a lot. They didn't already admitted, JP Morgan Chase didn't already admitted that they didn't close more than 50 of Trump's accounts after his first term ended. So much. So much. So much. It's a lot going on out here in the world. To be in Trump's America now, a lot of people are saying that, that they don't know the stability. He's working on his State of the Union address, which is going to be later this week, the State of the Union, which there are Democrats that are, in protest of this. It's supposed to be on Tuesday night. That's the plan. The plan is that he's going to deliver his State of the Union address on Tuesday night. How does he show up and address this issue given what's taking place? Right? We're about to be in what people are considering government shutdown. TSA pre-check and the global entry is shutting down operations. So if y'all know I'm a big fan of TSA pre-check and global entry. I love an expedited trip. When I go to the airport, like my new mindset is get in and get out. And if I go to an airport, it's pre-check, it's clear. If I can get clear, clear is great. When you can get clear. I went to Orlando. We left and we used clear to get back to Philly, but Philly doesn't really do clear. So that kind of sucks. They need to, though. There needs to be clear available in Philadelphia, make things better, because that's like when you got clear and pre-check, woo, game changer, y'all. Like it's a game changer. I got global entry, I got all the things. And I think that's why sometimes I have this mindset where I don't want to travel with people sometimes because I feel like I'm not trying to get lost in the sauce with you people. Like we need to ride American. Like I have a good friend of mine, she wants to travel with me and Mr. Johnson, her fiance. And I'm thinking to myself, do y'all both have pre-check? Do y'all both have pre-check? Are y'all willing to fly American with us? Because if you can, you two can be plus twos on my, Admiral's Club. We can go to the lounge and have breakfast or lunch or whatever and lounge and get drinks and things and be chilling before we take our flight. I mean, we could really make this a nice thing, but, these are the things I think about. Like I was like, oh, why you don't travel with friends? Like, because I need everybody to be on one accord. We all need to ride together. We all need to be on the same wavelength. I want us to all enjoy the same experiences. And that's why I love the Lip Brothers, because the Lip Brothers, we just be on the same, But anyway, this global, I guess there's like a minor government shutdown possibly. And there's a lot of chatter about it. But, will Trump have to address that in the State of the Union coming up on Tuesday? We'll see, But this situation with this TSA, look, I don't travel again until Well, hold on. The agency says that TSA PreCheck is open at airports. Apparently, they've reversed their course on suspending TSA PreCheck after the outcry. So initially, there was some talk that this was going to happen, that the White House, the TSA said that the reversal came out their discussions. DHS will suspend the global entry program as a partial shutdown. So global entry is going to get shut down, but TSA PreCheck is back on. I was telling people, y'all better get y'all shit together because quite frankly, listen, I'm not leaving to go to, Austin for South by Southwest until like mid-March. So I'm not traveling anytime soon in between then. But my mindset was, if y'all was going to pull this stunt and not figure this out, it was going to be a problem. So it looks like we have some minor good news. Now, for all my global entry folks that was trying to go off for spring break, I don't know what to tell y'all, baby. Y'all got to figure it out. See, this is why I don't go abroad that often. This is why I don't go abroad. It's bullshit like this. Could you imagine if you're on the other side of the country trying to get back to the U.S. and there's no global entry? Could you imagine how frustrating that shit would be? Like, there's always... I digress. It's just always something with this administration. And so we got some level of partialness to this. We recognize that this threat of the global, the global shutdowns and stuff, we need to get some things together, but it's a lot happening right now. So we're going to keep an eye on that, but it is what it is. Now, there's talk about a man being fatally shot in Mar-a-Lago. Law enforcement said that this man had an unauthorized entry into the perimeter that's very secure around the residence. Now, this is the president's resort in Florida, is Mar-a-Lago. He was not at the club, but this man was fatally shot. He was killed. They didn't know why he was coming in, but they didn't kill this man. That's what they're saying. It is a white man named Austin Tucker Martin. He was 21 years old. He's from North Carolina, but he got killed. Okay. They didn't shot and killed him. And people were saying that I guess they, I don't want to say that this might have been a situation. They was looking at social media. Trump has not spoken on it as of the time of recording his podcast, but it's not looking good. I don't know if the perspective was they thought was this some type of situation. Apparently, he was carrying what appeared to be a shotgun and a fuel canister. So, yeah, it's getting real. It's getting real. It's getting really real, and we gotta be safe out here. We gotta be safe. This be happening during Black History Month. I mean, it's just, ooh, there's a lot going on with that administration. I'll leave it at that. I had a question. Someone had asked me, but I guess I'm going to save this because I always try to get to you all's. You all have questions for me for Ask Ernest. Some of it is Ask Ernest. Some of it is other things, but I do want to make sure I get to that when I think I'm going to put that in. I think I want to put that in my media relations, but yeah, it's a lot. But I want to get more to this Supreme Court decision. It was a 6-3 decision. 6 out of 3 people of members of the Supreme Court. Justice Roberts supported the decision. He wrote it. He said that basically the Supreme Court said that Trump could not invoke the International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1977, which does not mention the word tariffs, to justify unilateral duties without congressional approval. So we all knew that he was breaking the law when he did it. But after all this time, the Supreme Court finally ruled that he exceeded that authority by doing this. And we sensed that was going to happen. Of course, Clarence Thomas did not support this. Of course. Are we surprised? Of course, Kavanaugh did not support this. Are we surprised? Of course, Alito did not support this. Are we surprised? Like we this is what we're dealing with. Come on. Now, the people that did support it, to be clear, was Thomas, of course, Kavanaugh, and look what we're dealing with. So the other people who did support it was, of course, Sotomayor, Jackson, Keegan, Barrett, Gorsh, and of course Jackson, of course did. But I guess the opinion of them was Sotomayor, Keegan, Gorch, Barrett, and Jackson. They made up with Roberts, of course. So those were the 6 that did. But of course, Kavanaugh, we see who the people are. So the 2 dissents, I mean, it's weird because the major dissents was Thomas and Kavanaugh were the major dissents, which is confusing because it's like, well, what's the 6-3? And I'm trying to figure out, well, who were the major people? But it seems as though some people was, I guess, trying to argue what was the favor because there's a lack of consistency. It's so it's Alito, Kavanaugh, and Thomas who dissented. But Alito, I guess, wasn't named. But yeah, it is exactly what I thought it was. Thomas, Kavanaugh, Alito. I didn't even know I just guessed, but I wanted to just confirm. But I figured it was the 3 of them, which, I have a little nickname for them, which I call Cat. Kavanaugh K, Alito A, Thomas T, Cat. Cat is always going to be the 3 that's going to always be in the mix. It kind of reminds me of the American public. Trump is always going to have like 33% of Americans who are going to support him. that's always there. There's always like a core third of the population that supports a diehard or like diehard supporters of whoever the person is. And so every time I see the polls and the polls go like, oh, 40% of Americans or 33%, it's like they're never going to shake. They're never going to shake. He's always going to have that core 33%. Now, sometimes he might move 50%, but it's a lot, and I'm just sitting here looking like 33%, is very telling. And yeah. So these are choices. So there's been a lot of chatter about Epstein. I want to say that it seems like the only people getting caught up in Epstein that's being held accountable are like, I talked about this, I believe like last week, not principals, academics, some executives, Wasserman, that big, huge publicist in Hollywood, he's letting go of his company, his PR firm, which Chappell Roan and others have left. There's a coalition of women trying to make it women owned, but he's out. But now Prince Andrew has been arrested. And I just want to say this, is that all of these whataboutisms, all the folks that have been pulling the whataboutisms left and right, I just want to say that you all never keep that energy when we're keeping the conversation. Like all this talk about Epstein, folks, we've been talking about Epstein. Everybody was all like, oh, well, why y'all not talking about these people? All y'all talking about is the black man and this. But I noticed that they've been quiet lately because the people that was talking about Diddy, they were saying, well, where's all this energy for the white men when they do it? Oh, baby. This is the part where y'all get silent. Y'all was silent about Harvey Weinstein. Did y'all not miss the whole Harvey Weinstein saga? Like, I just noticed that anytime there are those hoteps, and we know who those hoteps are, that whenever there's critique over black predators like Diddy, like R. Kelly, like others, they always pull the whataboutisms when talking about critiques around it. Like, oh, we don't see none of this level of outrage when white men do it. Like all the people that tried to defend Bill Cosby. Let the Epstein saga finally end the whataboutisms when it comes to when we hold black men accountable for abuse and being predators. Let the whataboutism committee finally die. Because if you have not heard about Epstein, you've been living under a rock. You don't even exist. This might be the biggest, longest expansion of finding white people accountable. And you know what's interesting is that it's actually some black folks who've been trying to drag black people in it. Because let me tell you, when I look on the internet and I see how many people keep trying to drag Jay-Z in the Epstein shit, even though he's really not in it. Like, first of all, do y'all remember when, first of all, a lot of people don't clearly, but Epstein reigning supreme was not at the time in which a lot of these rappers, like I just need black folks, I just need people to stop. Like I just need folks to get a fucking grip on reality. Let me just say that. Get a fucking grip on reality. I don't know why everyone wants to act like Jay-Z is like the Archduke Bishop of the third right of some major company or country. Like Jay-Z's a billionaire. I get it, right? He's a celebrity. But I'm not saying he's not powerful, but I'm not also saying he is like that. I think there's some people that have a very weird, disjointed obsession with him where they think that he's bigger than what he is. Like this man has celebrity influence and power. Yes. But he does not have the level of global governmental like influence that y'all think he do. Like he's not an Epstein. Yes, he has money. He's wealthy. But he's not that. And I think because there is a unhealthy, uneducated understanding of power in marginalized communities, we give people sometimes way more power than they really have. And we underestimate how much power we have when it comes as our power as voters. Like the same people that will say voting doesn't matter are the same people acting like Jay-Z is like up there with the president of the United States. It's very weird to me. And I've never been able to fully sit down and really reckon with it because quite frankly, I try to not get caught up in Hotepi as conspiracy theory conversations. But I just need people to understand that being rich alone is not the same as power. Like wealth, fame, and power are three different things. Sometimes they connect and sometimes they don't. There are some people that are very famous, okay? Famous, fame. We all know they are and very famous. But let me tell you a fun fact. Some of them are not that wealthy. They don't have that much money. There's a lot of people that are very famous and don't have a lot of money. There's also a lot of people who are very famous, but not that powerful. And that might be hard for you all to digest, where they're very famous. Like people know they are, but they really don't have as much power as you think they do in the industries that they work in. Like they don't really have that much control over a lot of things. There are a lot of people that are wealthy, have lots of money. And while their money can be a pipeline of power, they may not have the kind of power you think they have to shape certain decisions, legislative-wise and others, right? So there's sometimes we see political candidates, right? They got lots of money, they run for office, but they can't fucking win. Nina Ahmad ran for office 1,000 times over, but couldn't win. Alan Down ran for mayor of Philadelphia, was the wealthiest man in Philadelphia, couldn't win the mayoral race, couldn't have the kind of power to win a mayoral seat. So we oftentimes need to recognize that wealth don't always mean power. And wealth don't always translate to fame. There's a lot of people who have a lot of money, but they're not famous. There's a lot of people that got money that's not famous. A lot of rich people that are not famous. Like, they got hella money, but if you showed them a picture of a social media influencer, like I'm more famous in Philadelphia than some rich people. There's a lot of people that see me and say, oh, Ernest, you're very visible. You're very, you got a lot of fame. But am I filthy, gross wealthy? Absolutely not. I'm not filthy wealthy. I make some money, but I'm not like ridiculously gross, in which I think sometimes people think it's really weird. I think I'm in that category where I think people think I have more money than I really have. I'm not broke. I'm not I'm not broke. Okay. But I'm not as wealthy as I think some people assume. Like I think some people think that I'm like stacked on stack. It's just, and I think some of it comes from education, right? So some people have written me off to say they make all kind of assumptions. They like, oh, he went to Penn, he went to Ivy League school. Penn ain't cheap. Baby, I was on a scholarship. I was on financial aid. I didn't pay any tuition. I was on a full ride, baby. I didn't come from any money to get to Penn. Now, once I graduated, you can look at some of my deals and stuff and be like, I got a little money now. I'm not denying that. But I do think there's some assumptions about me where people have assumed a level of wealth and thought I came from money my entire life. Because when I came to Philadelphia, I went to an Ivy League school. So people assumed that, oh, how did he get there? Because they don't really accept that many black people. And I will say, you're right. Penn does not accept that many black people. And you're also right that Penn does not accept that many working class black Americans, okay? A lot of black kids that go to Penn, a lot of them are international. A lot of them come from money. It's not that many of us that get accepted on full ride scholarships. It's very seldom. A lot, especially myself and my husband. Like we both literally are like that rags to riches story. We are one of those people where it's like we both met from humble beginnings and met in Ivy League school and fell in love and made something of ourselves. It's a very rare story. We're very unique, but we're outliers. And so I can understand why people can get that confused, but that's not everybody's journey, right? But to be clear, was I in an institution where I had a lot of visibility and a little bit of influence, right? But that didn't mean I was wealthy. And so when I was on Penn's campus, I had a lot of notoriety. I was famous on Penn's campus. I was a very known student. But let's be clear, my notoriety and people knowing me did not mean I was a rich, wealthy campus student, a college student. I was not. And did I have some power? I did because I definitely had ties in. And I'll even argue now that even what I do now as a journalist and my platforms I do have some power. I do recognize that. I am famous in the city. I do have the level of people know me in a way that is outside of myself. I am a name in parts of the city, right? And I do have some influence. I do have some power. Does that necessarily equate to wealth? Am I like wealthy? I wouldn't say like ridiculously rich. No. So sometimes people can conflate the things, you know what I mean? And I think that's important to note. So I say all this to say that Prince Andrew has been arrested. And he's been arrested in connection to the Epstein files, He was arrested on this suspicion of his misconduct in public office, and he was released under investigation. But the fact that he was arrested, the fact that there has been an investigation and scandal, this is a big fucking deal. This is a remarkable fall from grace for the brother of King Charles III. He was stripped of his titles last year and is now known only as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. So I shouldn't be calling him Prince Andrew. Why do I should be calling him Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. And it is yet another blow to this royal family. The king has expressed his deepest concern, but he has also said the law must take its course. And irony is all this happened on Thursday on his 66th birthday. He's denied any wrongdoing in connection to Epstein. Okay, so he's made it very clear. Donald Trump said to reporters that the arrest was very, quote unquote, sad. He said, I think it's a shame. I think it's very sad. I think it's so bad for the royal family. It's a very, very sad. It's a very, very sad to me. It's a very sad thing. I can see that. Now, of course, there was questions about whether these types of arrests would take place in the U.S. because of Epstein. And he said, well, I'm the expert in the way because I've been totally exonerated. That's very nice, is what Trump said back. Child, I digress. But I also want to say this before I move on. There's been a lot of talks about Trump. There was a C-SPAN, I think there was some type of cable show that it revealed a man that went by the name of John Barron, who called in on a media show, one of these C-SPAN shows recently, and you can hear the voice and it sounds just like Donald Trump. The way the cadence of the voice, the sound, the patterns, the references, the phrases, it sounded like Trump calling in, bashing the Supreme Court's decision, calling into the show, bashing decision. Now, for those who try to figure out why would the name be called the pseudonym John Barron, several things. His son is named Barron. His younger son is named Barron Trump, right? John is his middle name. Donald J. Trump. John is the middle name. So he took his middle name and the first name of his son and put it together and called it John Barron. John Barron is a pseudonym. I'm wondering if people are going to catch on to this moving forward in the future, that John Barron calling in is pretty much Donald J. Trump. I mean, we don't know for a fact per se, but this person sounds just like Trump. And I just find it that John Barron, people making those connections. Barron is the last name. I mean, the first name of his youngest son. John's the middle name. So the connection between John Barron, that is very Trump connected, And the fact that he calls in on cable news, he watches it and gives his opinion. And the way it sounded just like him. So I kind of peeped that, by the way. Just wanted y'all to know that. I peeped it. I've been staying woke to it, So it's a lot happening right now in Trump land. But the Epstein thing's happening. We're seeing this stuff happen in real time. Now, to the Democrats. Young man running, I guess his name is, his book is going to be called Young Man in a Hurry, a memoir of discovery by Gavin Newsom. His book, he's on his tour. He's going to Nashville, which is pretty much soft launching his presidential run. We can all expect that. There is a lot of interesting things happening. There are some federal prosecutors who are representing 6 Democratic lawmakers who posted a video last fall and reminded the military and intelligence personnel that they didn't have to, quote unquote, obey illegal orders. Trump says that those lawmakers can be charged with sedition. There is a possibility that they might try to go after these 6 lawmakers. We don't know. There's a lot of talk about there is an interesting bid to indict some Democratic lawmakers. Stay woke on that. More will be coming, but I wanted to bring that to people's attention. This week, early voting will begin in Texas for that big, huge Democratic primary showdown between Jasmine Crockett and she's going against James Tallarico. And it's getting ugly between them. Over the past couple of days, there was some chatter about Stephen Colbert's show having James Tallarico on there, to which, Colbert claimed that the FCC tried to take it down, take the episode down, to which, they said it wasn't as deep as that. Jasmine Crockett said she has some evidence, some proof to say that whole situation wasn't true, that the FCC wasn't forcing the show, which I kind of felt like, I like her. I do like Jasmine Crockett. I do. But I do feel like we're getting close to this primary is coming up. I'm curious about how it's going to play out. I see cons on both sides of the race. I see cons between both Crockett and Tallarico. I think that there's an issue with Tallarico, right? I think that, voters are going to have to decide at the end of the day. Voters are going to have to decide who they want to get that nomination. Is Tallarico playing it up as being like he's this white, centrist, moderate Democrat that can get people? Jasmine Crockett, is she just not focused on really letting people know what her actual agenda is? There's a lot of things that make it difficult. But Crockett did a speech recently, an emotional speech, and made some really good points that have stuck with me. Democrats are voting in ways that are outpacing Republicans in Texas. So what that is saying is that there are more Democrats that are showing up to the polls than Republicans, which means that there is a strong chance that this can happen. So much of the conversation in recent years has been trying to convert Republican voters into Democratic voters. That's been the thought. But the truth of the matter is that we know that there are more registered Democratic voters than there are Republicans in many areas across the country, including Texas. The Democrats don't have a problem with recruiting people externally. They have a problem with engaging and igniting people in their own fucking base. When you have the ability, the numbers to win a race, and you're not, it's because people within your own party has lost faith. Sure, they will not register to be Republicans. They will not betray their party, but they will sit it out. I've been saying this for quite some time, that I feel like with Pennsylvania specifically, if you can win Pennsylvania and then go back and go forth, like Pennsylvania is a very purple state. 2012, they went for Obama. 2016, we went for Trump. 2020, they went for Biden. 2024, they went back to Trump. We're yo-yoing. And so what that tells me is that when I think about Philadelphia specifically, you look at certain areas of the suburbs, right? The suburbs in large numbers showed up. Democratic voters showed up in areas that they had not before. What that's telling me is that Democrats are actually interested and invested in seeing a different outcome than what we have previously seen. We have the ability to engage and to really ignite the base, but you have to have exciting candidates. You have to have candidates that people trust. You have to have candidates that people believe could win, and you have to mobilize and ignite the base. That's not happening. And I think who knows what will happen in this outcome, right? If the primary shows that Crockett has it, Crockett could win it. I really do think whoever wins the nomination has a really good chance of winning the general election for that Senate seat. But we just have to see who it is. And to be honest, I don't know. It could go either way. I don't know. I don't know who I have my money on. I think this is going to be down to the wire. I don't necessarily know. Because someone will say, conventional wisdom will say Jasmine Crockett. But I think that Jasmine has definitely not ran a strong campaign that can automatically clinch this nomination. I think she might really begin to ramp up the fire as early voting begins, and name recognition will help her. But I don't know. I don't know if I can really say. I can see Tallarico playing the soft battle because he did start his campaign much sooner than Jasmine did, and maybe he's built some goodwill. It's still up in the air. So I don't want to place my bets early and hedge my bets too early, but we'll see. we'll see. But early voting begins this week, and then the primary election will be, I believe, on March the 3rd will be the actual primary day, election day. We should have early voting in Pennsylvania, but they won't let us be great. Jasmine Crockett, yeah, we'll see what happens with her. Jesse Jackson has passed away at 84. He was a civil rights icon, a very complicated man. You know, I could go over his whole life, but I'm not. What I will say, and I think I will say that sticks with me a lot about him, and what I think a lot of people are missing in this current movement, especially politicians. I did not post my picture I took with Jesse Jackson. I took a picture of him at the NABJ convention many, many years ago. And I remember he was in a wheelchair. I don't know if he was in the wheelchair just yet. Maybe he was. I think he probably was. This was like over 5 years ago. Easy. Years ago. And he was in the room as a guest. And he might have been in the wheelchair by then. But we took a picture. I met him in person. And it was very, very brief. I had seen him at the 2016 Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia. My husband got a picture of him recently, like I want to say maybe a year ago, when he made a visit to Harrisburg. And I didn't post it because sometimes I don't know. When people die, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But I don't get into the humdrum of like the whole posting and things. I just, you know, it was RIP for me, but I just don't get into it sometimes. Sometimes it's just reflection. But what I noticed was so many people had a picture with Jesse Jackson. Like, not just like politicians and community leaders, but like everyday people. Like, I don't think I have seen a person have so many people that I knew in my everyday life post a picture of them like that. Like, people who just, like, people I went to school with, people I went to high school with. Like, it was so many people, random people who had a picture with Jesse Jackson. I was like, you too? Like, down my timeline. It was like it was almost like having it was almost like I want to say like 80% of Philadelphia had a picture with Jesse Jackson. And it's almost as if this person was like a local hero compared to being like this major global icon that he was. And I say all this to say that that's a life. That is a profile of a man who had a life lived. That this man was always with the people. Like, this man was everywhere. He touched everybody from Texas to Chicago to, I just have relatives. I had people from all over. I was like, everybody. People that was as young as 19 to people that was old. I mean, I saw the John Legend picture. John Legend had a picture with him when he was in college. Like, people this man has touched so many people. I think the last time I remember something like this was when Nelson Mandela had died. But that's what I mean. Like, when you lived a life where so many people was felt by you and touched by you, that he was a local hero, he was a state hero, he was a national hero, he was a global hero. Like, Jesse Jackson had the type of reach that everybody got a chance. Like, my husband met him in a different way than I met him. Like, everybody got a picture with Jesse Jackson because that's how far his reach was. That this man, no matter how old he was, like, people had pictures when he was standing up, people had pictures when he was in his wheelchair. This man never stopped until his death, engaging and meeting and thriving and growing with people from various generations. Like, what a life. Like, what a life. Like, to have that. And I say, in this day and age, I'm like, we don't have that many people. Like, I'm at the age, like I was just telling some of my friends, I was like, I'm starting to see civil rights leaders that I got to touch and feel die. Like, we are in a very interesting time. Like, you know, John Lewis, I got to meet John Lewis. And when John Lewis passed a couple years ago, it was sad. But now we're like, John Lewis, we're losing people that even I know. Like, there was, of course, the Stowe Carmichaels, the MLK. Like, I wasn't around then. I wasn't even born then, right? where you knew them leaders, and you had Rosa Parks and you had Coretta. Like, again, I didn't live to see them there, but I got to experience Jesse Jackson and know this man's like impact and legacy. I was born around the time he ran for president, so I didn't know him in that era, but I got to see his various eras and see him and hear him speak and hear his speech. I never forget a speech he gave. Oh my God, it was at the NABJ convention, like many, many years ago. And it was like a moment. And it was long. It was a long speech, but my goodness, it was so powerful. And I remember being like, this might be one of the last times, right? It was a moment. And it was such a fucking good speech. Like, I didn't even record on my phone. I was just in the room, just taking it in. But he was talking about the times we're in. Like, Trump was president then, his first term. And he talked about like how important it was for us as a people to wake up and to get back out. And that it was a speech against comfort. It was a speech against, and this again, like this had to be like 2017, 2018, but it was like, yeah, because Trump was still president. Like, I remember this speech, and he was talking about just how we as a community had gotten very comfortable and how we got really complacent in the things that we individually had. And he was like, we got to go back out there. We got to keep hope alive. We got to get back out. We got to fight the fight. That it's just not enough to do it the way we've been doing it. And we got it so, he went off and he threw some shots. I ain't gonna name no names, but he was speaking, he was having his moment. And whoa, was it a speech. And I just remembered that just now. And that was the same night I met him. I took my picture with him, but my God, he still had it. It was just remarkable to me. And I think about just the era we're in. And I think this is why I get so frustrated nowadays with the current movements that we see. So much of this shit has become a grift. So much of this shit has become so fucking VIP, meet me here at this event. Like, our civil rights activists, and I put this in parentheses, are having like meet and greets where you have to spend hundreds of dollars to see them at fundraisers. Like, you don't just get a chance to just encounter them in public space. They're not going to public spaces where people can hear them in conversation. Like, I think about studying James Baldwin and studying all these other folks. They went out to community events. They were accessible to people. They went to events. They went to public-facing events. There was ways that people can interact with them. You know, they went to libraries. They did book talks and discussions that were free to the public. There were opportunities to see them in action. It's not like that anymore. Like, everything is being treated like the club. Like, everything is treated like to the highest bidder. And I get the need to fundraise. I get the need to do these things. But when you get to a point where your visibility and accessibility that's supposed to be with everyday people is now being put in special spaces where only your access can be found at fundraisers and, you know, private events only. I mean, you know, and I understand the generational divide on these conversations, because when I think about Dr. King and I think about Jesse Jackson, these guys were not like, could you imagine, like the way that the grift is set up in the current movement space today, when I think about the people that are trying to quote unquote embody Dr. King and embody folks like Jesse Jackson, and the way the grift is set up now, someone like Dr. King would never be able to go to a public event that was not like ticketed, and you would never be able to see him at a church or an event unless there was like VIP. Like Dr. King would give a speech, a keynote nowadays. He would get paid like maybe $65,000, $50,000, maybe more to give, or maybe $100,000 at that point to give more to speak. And then you would have to be in a line for 7P, and only VIP, gold bracelet carriers can have that meet and greet with him, and the rest of you all would not. Like that is that's the modernization of like what this fucking grift of a movement is today. That those types of people would not be accessible to everyday people. And what made them legends, like when you think about Malcolm X, when you think about those individuals, was that they were amongst the actual communities and people they were in. And they were loved, and then people had moments. And I can imagine when I think about all the pictures of family members and people I know that got pictures with Dr. King, they had him with them in the streets. They had him with them in churches and community events and diners and things. Yes, this man had won the Nobel Peace Prize, but this man was also out there. He was outside. Jesse Jackson was outside with the people. And so that's what I will remember him. That's what I think about. All the things, I know we can unpack all the controversies, all the things. That's the one thing. Say what you want about him. But that man was outside. He was a true public servant. He was a true man of the people. And so many of our current leaders and folks need to get their head out their ass and go outside with the people. Because when you lose sight of your community, you lose sight of everyday people, you become out of touch. And that's when trouble arises. So that's how I remember him. That's how I remember his legacy. That's who I think about. That's what I think. Now, speaking of people who is clearly not with the people and not as accessible to the people, Stephen A. Smith. There are conversations that people are saying that folks need to take Stephen A. Smith's situation seriously. And I do agree with that. I do agree with that. I think that, there is a lot to be said about this. And I think that we, it's important that we do take this seriously, right? At a time on that we're dealing with, we do need to unify to recognize distractions. Stephen A. Smith is not somebody that I take serious. He's an unserious man. But in an era where Democratic voters are frustrated with the status quo, a guy like him might play a certain level of attraction to certain people. And if we don't recognize that now, we could be making the same Donald Trump mistake. I'm not saying I like him and I will vote for him, but we are at a space where there is no clear, there's no heir apparent to that Democratic nomination for president, right? Whereas people just automatically came to the natural assumption that Kamala Harris, after Biden, resigned, right? That Kamala Harris should just do it after he dropped out. There was like a natural level of like, okay. Now, there were some disagreements about that, but for the most part, we all kind of respected the next step. I don't think we have that right now in the Democratic Party. I don't think that we naturally have a level of unifying. If there was one person, I would say Gavin Newsom, but even Gavin Newsom is still splintered amongst people. Like everybody's not even sold on that, and I think that's important. And I think we need to all come to that realization much sooner than later. Stephen A. Smith, I think he has not shied away from the idea of considering presidency. I will not sneeze at it. Remember this conversation. That's all I'm going to say on that. Now, media changes. Look, Savannah Guthrie, my heart goes out to her. We still don't have any updates really on her mother missing. There's a strong case that she may not even come back to the Today Show or come back on broadcast. Because, I mean, how do you come back on air? Like, how do you come back on air dealing with that? Like, emotionally, that level of attention. Like, how do you come back? There's a strong chance that she may not. That's what they're saying. Another issue that no one's talking about is Anderson Cooper is leaving 60 Minutes. After all these years, Anderson Cooper has been a correspondent, a major fixture of the 60 Minutes family. He's leaving. There's a lot of clashing with, CBS. CBS has had their under Barry Weiss. There's a lot of concerns about the future. Anderson Cooper, I guess we're only going to have him on CNN now. I guess that's going to be the only place. I mean, he's got a lot of money. I mean, he's a trust fund baby. He's related to Gloria Vanderbilt. I mean, he's going to be fine. But he's an iconic producer. I mean, a broadcaster. He's been there for 20 years. He's 58 years old now. So he's leaving. There's a lot of turmoil with 60 Minutes. And I think there's an issue with the censorship. I think there's a lot of conversation about the censorship that's happening there. It's a lot. But we'll be following it. Now, I think this is important to note because there's been a lot of conversation. A lot of people have been asking me questions. I want to take some time to look at something. I'm going to pull this up because someone asked me this question and I wanted to, I'm looking at this now. I'm going to pull this because somebody, I try to, when you ask me direct questions, I try to answer them as much as I can. I'm going to pull up this question. So when I get IG DMs, I get specific questions and, yeah, it's interesting because, interesting. We're going to get onto that in a minute. I'm looking at some DMs I got about some stuff, but I always try to pick one question I can answer. That's a good question. So this person said to me, "Hello, Ernest. I have a potential question for you and your podcast. Since you are a professor at a community college, can you talk about how you address the literacy crisis and overdependence on technology with your students? I am not familiar with CCP, but am familiar with the local community colleges of NYC, where we have students matriculating who need many remedial classes and struggle to write paragraphs, pulling out their cell phone every 5 minutes, etc. As a professor working with working class youth who might have not attended the most academically challenging high schools, how do you hold your students accountable while being understanding of their learning challenges? And do you think school administrators are too lax on student accountability in the age of AI, smartphones, and the literacy crisis? For example, are professors discouraged from failing students to keep retention high? Thanks in advance if you have the chance to read this." So I want to answer your question. I think it's a very good question, and it's also connected to media literacy and whatnot. So in my course, I'm very big on that. I don't let cell phones be allowed to be used when we're in instruction. I think for me, I have spent a great deal of time, and also, but this is an anti-AI class. I don't let my students use AI for papers and things of that nature. And part of the reason why I don't allow them to use that is because of the fact that, one, it creates a plagiarism concern. Second, I need you to understand how to get this information on your own without being codependent on AI. Because here's the thing, AI keeps evolving and changing, and a lot of this stuff keeps getting in trouble. And I don't want to, in a community college, some of my students want to go to community college and transfer to a 4-year institution. I know that at 4-year institutions, there are stricter guidelines when it comes to plagiarism, citing sources, and academic integrity. If I let them get caught up in AI in ways that I cannot teach them how to use it properly or even spend that time, they will be codependent on it, which means that they will eventually begin to use it in ways where they will not know how to cite sources, they will not know how to do research properly, and as a result will find themselves getting expelled or losing tuition dollars in it. So what I do is I think we need to go back to the bare minimum, the bare basics actually. We need to explain to people and to students what it means. What does citation means? What does it mean to cite sources? What does plagiarism mean? What does it look like? And have a very regular, normal conversation about it. I think what has happened in recent years is that people just tell people what to do without explaining what to do. And I think when it comes to the conversation around academic integrity, we just tell people don't plagiarize, don't copy, cite your sources, goodbye. That's not cutting it in an era of AI. We should have never done that, actually. And I think when I was younger, I think we have taken for granted that common sense is not common in the digital era. So when I was younger, we used to just be told, when you write a paper, cite your sources, go to the library and whatnot. Yeah, when I was back then, when, you had to look things in a book. But given that the internet is so fast, given that there's so much information out there, most people don't actually think they need to cite sources because they just assume that everyone can just Google and look things up. So because people have lost a sense of understanding that even though we're using the same internet, it's important to let people know what's your idea and what's not. We're not having an intellectual discourse about what it means to cite sources. What is your original idea and what is not your original idea and why? I am spending time, which I appreciate doing in the beginning of my teaching, to actually educate students on what plagiarism is, what does it look like, what does it mean to cite sources, how do you cite sources, what is a source, to really break that down, to educate them on how to do it, and to explain to them that that is a part of the assignment, that citing sources is not just a sidebar deal that's optional, that seeing your actual citation in your research collection, I am grading you a part of that. And so I encourage professors and people to understand that it's not enough to tell people not to do something because it's bad, but you have to explain why it's bad, why it's evil. To the point that I explain to my students why AI is bad to them and bad for them, to the point where a lot of them have made social conscious woke decisions on not being codependent on AI, not just only for Professor Owens' class, but also in future other classes and spaces. So I think it's important for professors to take more time to educate and tell them and model the behavior, what this means, right? And so I teach them tricks and things of like how to source, how to know what a good source is, how to cite a source, how to do certain research on it. Like all of that, I'm taking the time in class to explain so that my students do not feel, overwhelmed or feel, like they're in a position where they don't have agency. And so that is how I got my students not being codependent on AI. And maybe they might, use it as a tool to help them research and learn some things. But when it's time to actually cite sources, they know how to. They know how to find information, and that guides them. So that's what I would recommend in this day and age. That is the thing I would say. We need to spend more time explaining people why these things are bad or why these things are good or why we do what we do, rather than just go, I'm a professor and these are the rules. We actually need to take time to explain why we're saying this. And I think a lot of professors are not doing that. They're either letting the students just do what they want to do, or they're lowering the bar. And that's the problem. We start lowering the bar, then you set these students up for failure. Especially at community college. Like, I love the fact that I have some students that is transferred to four-year colleges, and they feel so ready to take on those papers and those assignments because I've already explained to them how to cite sources, how to properly research. If you got college students and they're young and they're impressionable, or there's students who don't know, that's the goal of a professor. If you can teach them the skills of the subject matter of the course, then how come you can't think you can also teach them the skills of how to avoid AI and how to actually learn how to be a better researcher for an assignment? All of that goes hand in hand. If they're going to learn, teach them. It takes more time, maybe some more effort or some more clarity, but I would rather do that than have a bunch of papers sound the same and a bunch of papers that don't have sources cited. So that's my answer to your question on that topic. And that's a very good question, but I hope I answered it. Like pretty much raise the bar early, explain more, drop the ball less, don't lower the standards, raise them or maintain them, and really make yourself a resource to help them get better. Like open yourself up to that. Like there are some students that wanted office hours to understand the site sources. I did that with them. Take the time to do that. Make that investment, because if you don't, then we're going to continue to see the algorithm get jacked up. You're going to see a lot of bad papers for years to come. So that's my take on that. So I've had a lot of inquiries about 106 in Sports being canceled. It's this show that Cam Newton had in its first season, a couple of episodes, and it's been canceled. I didn't even know we was really watching BT like that anymore. I feel like I only watch BT like once a year. And you all know what I'm there to watch, the BT Awards. I don't really know what their shows are. You know, I don't really know. I mean, 106 in Sports was supposed to be, I guess, a remix of 106 in Park. And they thought Cam Newton was going to make that work. Well, it's been canceled. So, yeah. Yeah, I don't have much to say. I saw it on my timeline. People kept sending it to me, and I was like, did you watch it? Because clearly you didn't. I mean, it got canceled within, I think, 6 or 8 episodes of that first season. I didn't even know what it was about. I just was never interested in it. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with BT. I feel like BT is just kind of like just existing. Like there's nothing that makes you want to go watch. I mean, I guess some people, I mean, you know what it is? They've given the show, the channel to Tyler Perry. Like it's mostly like all of Tyler Perry's sitcoms and stuff kind of keeps the blood flowing on that show. I mean, whereas like MTV has inherited Love and Hip Hop, if BT was smart, I mean, they would just take new episodes of Love and Hip Hop and run it through there, since VH1 has kind of shoveled it. Like VH1 is kind of this weird thing where MTV has Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, VH1 is doing Miami. I mean, we could bring Love and Hip Hop Hollywood, maybe a third iteration. Was it like maybe another one to put on BET so that can get some traction? I don't know. I don't really know. It's gotten weird. Like even Miami, like I don't even know what happened to Love and Hip Hop Miami. Like I was watching it and then it kind of just disappeared. And I don't know like if they was going to tape some more shows. But I was kind of sitting there like, what happened to Love and Hip Hop Miami? Like it was supposed to, like, I don't know if they got back on track, but I was watching it and then it kind of got weird. It kind of like disappeared for a period of time. Like the episodes just stopped. The latest episode stopped running. It was like a period of time where they were running and then I kind of lost track. Like, yeah. So yeah, it's interesting what's happening with TV landscape. I mean, Atlanta's on and popping, so yeah. But yeah, I don't know. BT just seems to have lost its way in more ways than one. And that's what it feels like with them. Gallup is this continuing its presidential approval rating polls after more than 8 decades, which for those who know the Gallup poll basically was like the most reliable, most insightful tool that a lot of media outlets have used, including myself. Basically, when you would hear news outlets say, hey, the Gallup poll this week showed the presidential approving rating of somebody, they're no longer doing that. So we're not going to basically have a sense of what is the presidential approval rating at any given time for a president moving forward. And they've been doing this for 80 years. So, you know, I don't know if it's worth it. Trump, has had a lower Gallup poll rating, but I guess that won't even That won't even matter, I guess, because we won't even know what they will be. So, I mean, I guess there'll be some other people that's going to be doing those polls in the future, but I guess the polarization has transformed what it is. I think people are beginning to say, hey, their decision to drop their approval poll underscores. Bloomberg did articles, 88 years. It was going to be 90. It's been 88 years. And now it's going to go away. And people are saying that they think that this decision to drop the approval poll underscores how polarization has transformed one of the most important metrics in politics. So the public opinion landscape is shifting. Like, I think people have to understand why this is important. Approval ratings was crucial in helping to shape our understanding of one's performance and also make them realize that whenever they made certain decisions, if the public was disapproving of their performance, then that would make them realize maybe I should go in a different direction than what I'm currently doing. But now that that's no longer on the table, we just have to just wait and see. So stay tuned for that. And then before I move on to local politics, I want to talk a little bit about this. This has been an internet phenomenon. There's a Black woman, I don't know if I should even say person or human, but there is a Black social media character that goes by the name of Ashley the Baroness. And there's been some recent buzz around whether this individual was real or fake. And I've been trying to figure out what's real and what's not with this individual. So Ashley the Baroness is this Black woman that's been on TikTok and on Twitter, on social media. They've amassed thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers. They say all of the right, intriguing things about social justice issues. They kind of have this voice. They have the sound, the look of a Black woman, and people think that she's real, or there's been the thought that she was. But lately, people have been just kind of like, is this a real person? Like, is Ashley the Baroness, the person that we're seeing on the camera, a real person? Because some of her facial expressions, the hyperpigmentation, and the filters just seems to appear to be that of an AR avatar. Its human-like qualities look somewhat real. I don't think the person's real. I got thoughts in a minute, but I'm trying to provide context before I give you my thought. It's been questioned online lately, is this a real Black woman? Is this a real person? And there's been a real interesting sense that no one's been able to track who this person really is. Like, whereas, there's some online personalities that have gone to meet the president, have gone to meet politicians, have gone and have done talks in community. Ashley Baroness does not appear to have a life outside of what is being described online. And looking at the videos, everything just really feels like an AI-generated bot. And because people have been using very over-the-top filters that have made them appear more animated, people did not think maybe this is a Black woman. Could this be? But anyway, it just appears to be a very performative avatar. And so recently there was some clips that showed an interview that Joy Reid has done with this individual. And that raised some red flags because it was a virtual interview because, she's not doing in-person. Joy Reid doesn't have in-person. So it was almost like a Zoom call type thing. And this interview got people even more thinking that something was weird going on with the delayed speeches. It's just really weird. And so it's creepy. I'm happy that people are beginning to push back and question this person's whereabouts, their real identity. As of right now, I haven't gotten any confirmation that's really fully confirmed if Ashley the Baron is a real person. And the fact that we're now in an age where we're seeing social media, voices in this type of way, we're questioning whether their identity is real, is just telling us how creepy this AI shit has gotten. And it is very creepy, actually. I've been trying to track down information on what people are hearing. And again, people are just, it's something going on here. Something ain't, the lights are not all upstairs. But folks have just been saying, can we see some real life in-person action with this individual? That's what I've been hearing from people. She's been giving a lot of Black history, but looking at a lot of these videos, it's just something off. It's something off. Like, it's just something that just seems off. Yeah, I'm looking at people that's talking, and everyone's kind of like, I don't know much about this person. This just seems very weird. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot there. It's a lot going on. But stay woke. I personally think that Ashley Baroness is, I think a real person's behind her, but I don't think the person we see on the screen is her. Kind of like that singer we was talking about, this a couple of months ago, this AI singer, right? That kind of had a moment, I guess, this black woman was writing the songs, but the person we was listening to was not actually her vocals or her. I think Ashley Baroness might be a creation of a Black woman, hopefully, that is having these conversations, but the person we're seeing is not who that person is. That would give me a little bit more peace. But just the fact that people didn't even know that the avatar itself, the way that it's been animated, isn't a real person. So it's just creepy. We just gotta stop using filters, y'all. I just need to see real people. That's just where I'm at with it. So with local politics, there has been a lot of this has been a chaotic week for Mayor Sherrill Parker. This has been a weird week for Democrats. I mean, in this area, there's just a lot going on in Philadelphia and in Pennsylvania at large. I guess I want to get my rankings, perhaps. Chris Rabb, the state representative, we just talked about him last week's episode with his whole campaign finance scandal. It's official. He is not running for state rep. Now, you all know this, that I've talked about this for several months, that I had predicted, and I had close sources that was hinting that Chris Rabb was not running for state rep. So it's official that he's not. He's putting all of his eggs in the basket to support his congressional race, which is struggling. There is some struggle there financially. But he's going all in. This week, last Tuesday, petition signatures are now being officially collected. We're now in the season of collecting signatures. So all of last week, all this upcoming week, and by around March 6th of the next week, we will wrap up signature collections. Chris Rabb is the first congressional candidate in his particular race that was the first to get 1,000 signatures. Following him is Sharif Street, and there's some other candidates I can imagine are still working to get their 1,000 signatures, but he has filed the first 1,000, and other candidates have since followed after that. But Rabb is trying to get on that ballot. He is all in. He is not running for re-election, so he's going to finish out his, I want to say, fifth term, maybe fifth, not fifth. It might be fifth consecutive term. This might be his fifth. Well, this is going to be his fifth and final term. So it'll be about 10 years. That'll be about right. Maybe fifth consecutive term, I think it has been for him. So he's going to finish his fifth and consecutive term. He's have served 10 years in the House. Quite a journey. Quite a journey to be had. And he's going to put all his eggs in this congressional basket. It's a choice. There is now going to be a new person in the Northwest, it appears. It appears that now that he's out the race, the door is open for some new blood. So we're going to get to see who this new person is going to be. Will it be, who's going to take the throne? We're going to find out. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting time for Philly politics, but there will be a new state rep in that district. So that's that. I got a chance to, see Austin Davis. I can't say meet. We've met. I mean, he's been a guest on my podcast when he first won his primary race for Lieutenant Governor 4 years ago. So I can't say meet, but I got a chance to see Austin Davis again, Lieutenant Governor Austin Davis. We had a brief little chat. This was at the launch party. Not launch party. It was a launch party, I guess, the kickoff. It was a public event for State Representative Andre D. Carroll, who is running for re-election in his district. And that's in the Northwest area. That's Germantown, Logan, and West Oak Lane. So that kickoff event was on this past Saturday. I went to the event to, observe who was there, media coverage and how that goes. I went with my bestie, Jamarcus, and we checked it out. There was a lot of people there. Lieutenant Governor Austin Davis was there giving a full-throated endorsement for Andre D. Carroll. And interesting enough, there was a lot of establishment Democrats that was also present. Andre considers himself to be a progressive. He's been previously backed by the Working Families Party. He is a Democrat, but he had a strong support system there. I mean, Council President Kenyatta Johnson endorsed him. Majority Leader of City Council Kathy Gilmore Richardson, of course, his longtime friend and colleague, well, not Democratic colleague, I suppose, not in City Council, of course, but the Majority Whip, Isaiah Thomas, Anthony Phillips from City Council, State Senator Sharif Street, who's running for Congress. That was interesting. State Senator Art Haywood, State Senator, oh my goodness, it was a lot of people. I'm just thinking about Tariq Khan, who's a state rep. Oh my goodness, I'm thinking about this guy. He beat Laurie Finazzi. He recently been there. It's a lot of people. It was a lot of interesting progressives and Myers all together. Kendra Brooks, Nicholas O'Rourke from the Workers' Families Party was there. Kendra Brooks gave a speech in support of Andre Carroll. Yeah, he had a very packed. I mean, oh my goodness, Anthony Hardy Williams, State Senator Anthony Hardy Williams was there. Nick Savall, that's what I'm thinking of. Nick Savall was there. Like, it was a full house. But people who were not there, that was interesting. Oh, let me back up. Jordan Harris was there. Like this, again, I'm just thinking of all of these major players that were in the room. It was like the Democratic power players were there. Who was not there? Chris Rabb, who the Working Families Party is getting behind. He wasn't there for Andre. That was interesting. I mean, he's already got it. I mean, I thought that was interesting that he's not there. Sources have told me that the two of them had not seen eye to eye on certain issues. Interesting enough, Chris Rabb, who again is a progressive, did not endorse Andre Carroll for re-election 2 years ago, despite the fact that there was a whole coalition of support behind him from Working Families Party. And this actually speaks to my issue with Rabb's race. On my show, On the Record with Ernest Owens, I actually raised the question of like, hey, why isn't the support coming from progressives as much for Rabb? I've noticed that there has not been a lot of endorsements so far for Chris Rabb from progressive. I mean, he has some progressive support. He has AFT, I believe he does have them. He has them. He has other certain groups, certain unions. He's got some support. But there's also just some people that I just thought would be a given that have not come out yet for him. And that has been very interesting. And I guess if I was the judge, I would assume that Andre will not probably be endorsing him. Um, Morgan Cephas was not there at the event, and Andre was just there at Morgan Cephas' state rep run, not for her congressional support, but he has supported her for state rep. The only congressional candidate that was there in the room that's kind of been with Andre from the very beginning, I mean, as far as supporting him consistently, has been State Senator Sharif Street. And if I was to predict or forecast an endorsement, it would be very interesting that there's going to be some potential factions within the progressive space. There's some that are supporting Chris Rabb, but it might appear that someone like a Andre Carroll might be endorsing Sharif Street. I mean, there's no public confirmation of this. I don't have any confirmation of it. I mean, it has no endorsement has been announced. I don't know if Andre is actually making an endorsement in the race, but I just say all this to say these are the issues that I think Chris Rabb, I was saying, and people were telling me, some progressives were saying, oh, I don't know if you're reading that correctly. And I was like, nah, I've heard of some concerns. Like, look, Kenyatta, he has been critical of Malcolm Kenyatta. Rabb has been, which, I'm critical of him, but I'm also not a progressive, and I'm also not somebody working alongside of the Working Man's Party. When I mean I'm progressive, I am progressive, but I mean, I'm not like a elected progressive. So my thoughts, my takes are different. And it's annoying as a journalist because I have to tell a lot of these elected officials that the things that I say and do, I don't play the same games they play. I don't have to navigate politics the way they do. So some of them like envy my ability to say things the way I say them. Well, listen, sweetheart, you can do the same thing as well, but then you have to pay certain consequences that maybe I don't have to pay. I mean, we all have to pay a price in some type of way, to be honest. But I say all to say that he's got his work cut out for him. And I don't know if it's safe to say that every progressive is going to be endorsing him. Every progressive is going to be coming out in favor of Rabb for Congress. I think some may sit it out. I think some might support other candidates. It's just becoming interesting to me that it doesn't seem like Chris Rabb is a team player. It doesn't seem like he knows how to get along with people, even in his own camp. I get combating the moderate Democrats. I get going against the centrists, the establishment who didn't want you in the seat. It is fair that Sherelle Parker, when she was in city council, ran several people against him, and he's defeated them. Tanya Cooks, other folks that he's ran. It's just been several people that she's ran to go against him, and he's been able to beat them, each and every one of them in the primaries. And the Northwest Coalition had tried to run against him. And he's stood his ground. So, this is a true. Previous Democrats, he's defeated. It's been a thing, and these are people that has been in his cabinet, and I think that says something. Multiple times, these races are not, people, have looked at him as a dead horse, and then he was able to pull some surprising wins. He went against Tanyelle Artis Cooks, who's a former chief of staff to Sherelle Parker, who then turned around later and was able to work on her cabinet now. So it's just a moment, it's just something to observe. It's something to note, and you can't ignore that reality. Melissa Scott, he won with 52% of the vote. Another one, again, people, the Democratic establishment, Miriam Tasco and Sherelle Parker, they both backed Melissa Scott. He beat her. So he's had some tough races. The Northwest Coalition could not stop challenging people against him. And, it's always been a situation where he's had to run, but he's held his own since then. But it should be noted. So that brings me to Sherelle Parker. She has had an interesting week. A week that was, at once held at a victory. and then merit and controversy. It just seems to be where she's at. There's a betrayal. For starters, let's get into the good before we get into the bad and ugly. So the good is that she had a minor victory. I wouldn't say minor. I'll be fair. I'll say it was notable. It was notable. I won't say minor. But she had a notable victory that suing the Trump administration, she was able to get the panels restored up at Independence Mall. Those Black History panels that were removed a couple of weeks ago by the Trump administration, they got put back up. Now, let me be very clear. Not all of them got put back up. Some of them I have heard from sources connected to the panels, the historical panels at the mall, Independence Mall, that some of them have been damaged. Not destroyed, but damaged in the process. They have been damaged. And some notable ones about Ona Judge, who was the reason why we even have that, her history as someone who worked under George Washington, that was one of his enslaved people that knew her freedom. This person not being recognized and restored back to the panels, that's just a red flag to me. I have heard that the reason why some of those panels can't come back up because they've been damaged in such a way. A lot of them did go back up, but a great number of them didn't. And so for those who follow me on social media, you might have noticed that I went on Thursday night, I went outside and walked around the panels so I can get a good look and see what was there and what wasn't. And from my own eyes, I saw that there was a lot of them that were still missing. So that stood out to me. But that same Thursday, when she had this victory, many people said, look, she stood up and she got results and Black History Month is saved. Later that evening, the Philadelphia Inquirer revealed a secret letter in exchange between the Parker administration and Trump administration in August of 2025 that they actually fought in the courts, the fight against the free press from getting access to this. The right to know law allows for the journalists and news outlets and media outlets to access public government records that are on record. So any government letters, you can access those documents, you can request them, and the government should make them accessible to you. That's a part of the law. Well, that's a right to know request. Like anytime it's a governmental document between governmental entities, the public has the right to know. You can access those files. It is for us to know. That is how the government works. Well, the Inquirer requested a right to know of these documents and had to fight in the courts. The Park administration relentlessly fought to stop the reveal of this document, this letter. And basically what this letter was about was the whole debacle over Sanctuary City and Welcoming City. A lot of people want to understand the difference and what the city was dealing with this, because understanding the city's immigration laws will help you understand the resistance on ICE. Well, it appears that in August of last year, the Park administration already knew where they were headed with this conversation. Even though they did not talk to us, we the people, about where they really stood on the Sanctuary City issue or whatnot. I mean, granted, the mayor has been using this word welcoming city, which I already told you all was just a weird talking point, because welcoming city wasn't what the city was saying for themselves. It was a designation by some separate organization that gave the city this title, which pretty much meant that they embrace, immigrants and, this is an inclusive city. It was very vague. It was very, it wasn't specific. Now, there was an executive order signed by Mayor Jim Kenney that people argue made Philadelphia a quote-unquote sanctuary city, because there was a specific executive order that pretty much suggested that the city would not, pretty much, even though they didn't use the word sanctuary city, that was the title, it would not cooperate with federal authorities in pretty much submitting immigrants, undocumented immigrants over. Like basically, this was a city that was going to let people live and let be. And what that meant was that this was not a city that was going to go out its way to submit and transfer undocumented individuals to the immigration authorities or federal authorities. So in other words, if you're an undocumented immigrant operating in Philadelphia, it was to say that this would be a safe city for you, that if you were found to not be documented, the city government, the administration would not go out its way to try to deport you. If if you get caught by ICE in your own individual space, then that happens. But they would not be cooperating and in many ways aligning themselves with federal agents to do that. So this was considered a sanctuary city under those terms. I mean, sanctuary city is defined, whether they want to use the word sanctuary city. The laws that the Kennedy administration had was that they would let live and let be with undocumented immigrants in Philadelphia. Now, and this is not the same for every city, right? In cities like Houston, well, Houston is, I mean, who knows nowadays, but there are parts of cities in Texas and across Pennsylvania where the moment somebody shows up undocumented, they will cooperate. Sheriff's office, certain sheriff's office deputies and others, and police department, others will automatically work tirelessly with the feds to basically deport individuals immediately. That's not what Philadelphia was known for. That was not the reputation of Philadelphia. And that's what made Philadelphia a sanctuary city. The weird thing is that in the Parker administration's letter, it gives pick-me energy. The letter is talking out the side of its neck, okay? And I want to say the side of its mouth. It's two-sided. It's very phony. It's a very phony letter. It's a very phony letter. So I'm going to read some parts of it. The city says that told the U.S. Department of Justice that Philadelphia remains a quote-unquote welcoming city for immigrants, and that it did not have any plans to change the policies the Trump administration had said made it a quote-unquote sanctuary city. Okay? That's what it said. Quote, to be clear, the city of Philadelphia is firmly committed to supporting our immigrant communities and remaining a welcoming city. That is what the city solicitor Renee Garcia wrote in the August 25th, 2025 letter. However, the turn then goes, at the same time, the city does not maintain any policies or practices that violate federal immigration laws or obstruct federal immigration enforcement. I don't understand. I'm lost here. Like, I'm lost. I don't understand. Okay. So the Inquirer describes this as the administration's opaque handling of the letter, which is weird because Parker has claimed that she's not going to change these immigrant-friendly policies, but she's avoiding this confrontation with the federal government. And I think this is part of her trying not to poke the bear. The problem is that Pam Bondi, who's the AG for Trump, basically the Attorney General, she is saying basically that she demanded the city to produce a plan to eliminate its quote unquote sanctuary policies or face consequences, which is basically the potential loss of federal funds. What Pam Bondi said on August 13th was that individuals operating under the color of law, using their official position to obstruct federal immigration enforcement efforts and facilitating or inducing illegal immigration may be subject to criminal charges. You are hereby notified that your jurisdiction has been identified as one that engages in sanctuary policies and practices that thwart federal immigration enforcement to the detriment of the interests of the United States. This ends now. Now, the statement from the Parker administration states, and this is what Garcia's office had said, this is the solicitor's office, says, as we stated, the city of Philadelphia is firmly committed to supporting our immigrant communities as a welcoming city. That is what she said in a statement recently. At the same time, we have a long-standing collaborative relationship with federal, state, and local partners to protect the health and safety of Philadelphia, and we remain in compliance with federal immigration laws. This is what I call obtuse circular reasoning. The federal laws that we have in place and the cooperation and the laws that we have in place under the Trump administration cannot, in my mind, be in alignment with what Mayor Jim Kenney, had supported with sanctuary cities. If you're not going to say sanctuary cities and you're going to use this term welcoming city, which is really a bullshit term at this point because it kind of does not have any political teeth. But if you're going to consistently act as though there's been no changes, how does that make sense? Because I remember what the executive order has suggested. It's obvious that the Trump administration wants to see what the plan is. They are saying that there's no changes. So are you trying to suggest that Kenney's executive order did nothing legally different? That there's actually nothing that is fundamentally different than anything else? That's bullshit. And the Park administration will not clarify what is in the executive order. I almost want to go, have y'all read it? What does the executive order says? Like, what does the Kenney administration's executive order says? We all know what it says. And how is that going to maintain its different, how does that maintain its stance in a Trump administration? Seriously, I want to know. Because it seems to be really weird, right? So the executive order, which is quote unquote protecting American communities from criminal aliens, there is no record that we can see of it, right? And I think that is coming from Trump, that type of language. I want to know what is, what is that executive order? And so I've pulled it up because I want people to know what it is. I'm going to read you all what this document says because I think education is important. This is from 2026. This is what Trump says. I mean, not Trump says, I'm sorry. Jim Kenney's executive order says, because I have to pull up the receipts. Policy regarding U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency detainer requests. Whereas immigrants make significant contributions to every facet of the city of Philadelphia's economic, educational, cultural life, and whereas the city government has a responsibility to maintain public safety and ensure that residents feel secure, respected, and able to interact with public safety officials without fear. And whereas the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, ICE, has recently discontinued its Secure Communities program, Secure Communities had shifted much of the burden of federal civil immigration enforcement onto local law enforcement. And whereas the Department of Homeland Security and ICE have instituted the new priority enforcement program, PEP, to replace Secure Communities. And whereas it is incumbent upon the federal government and its agencies to both listen to individuals concerned with this new program and ensure that community members are both informed and invested in the program's success. And whereas unless and until this happens, the city of Philadelphia should not comply with detainer requests unless they are supported by a judicial warrant and they pertain to an individual being released after conviction for a first or second degree felony involving violence. Now, therefore, I, James F. Kenney, mayor of the city of Philadelphia, by the powers vested in me by the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter, do hereby order as follows. Section 1, no person in the custody of the city who otherwise would be released from custody shall be detained pursuant to an ICE civil immigration detainer request pursuant upon, nor shall notice of his or her pending release be provided unless such person is being released after conviction for a first or second degree felony involving violence and the detainer is supported by a judicial warrant. the police commissioner, the prisons commissioner, and all other relevant officials of the city are hereby required to take appropriate action to implement this order. Section 3, executive order is hereby rescinded. Section 4, this order shall take effect immediately. He signed that, y'all. He signed it in 2016, in January 2016. This is his executive order. That is the executive order. I just read it to you all. That is what made Philadelphia be considered a sanctuary city. Mayor Sherelle Parker says this executive order has not changed. My question to her becomes, do she not see how that executive order, okay, goes in contrast to what the Trump administration is trying to have? How does she not see that this mandate, this executive order, is in contrast to what the Trump administration is trying to do with their ICE? So when the Park administration says that they will comply and cooperate with federal laws, they're saying that while they will not change the executive order, pretty much whatever the federal government wants of them, they're going to cooperate. So in other words, this executive order is no longer in effect, because whatever the federal government wants, even if it contrasts with the executive order, the Park administration basically says they're willing to cooperate and comply with it. Well, what the Trump administration wants is not this executive order, Park administration, which means that you're basically willing to work with them in contrast to this executive order that Kennedy has signed in action in 2016. So in other words, we have the answer. The Park administration is not fighting back on ICE. And this law, right, that City Council is trying to get passed, right, the ICE out bill, that's pretty much going to go away. I don't think that that's going to get passed. I just want to be clear about that. I don't think that it is. You know what I mean? I don't think that is going to be something that we're going to see people change on. I don't think we're going to see people change on this. I don't. City Council has an ICE out bill, and it's notable, right? We talked about it. But now I have concerns about the fact that it will be implemented. Like, I know that is veto proof from the Park administration, but maybe they will argue that it cannot be legally enforced. I don't know how she's going to. I don't think she's going to vote in favor of it. I think she's going to try to veto it. I mean, she's going to get overrode by it. But I have a sense that this is not going to actually, that this may not even be signed into law. I can sense them trying to argue that this is a bill that cannot be legally enforced. And it's going to go in lockstep in contrast to their cooperation with ICE. So when I told people that there was a sense that this was happening, we now have the receipts. We have the receipts. We have the receipts. Now, I want to talk a little bit about Shapiro, because I went viral on Sunday, and there might be more coming based on what I have said. We're going to watch this space. But there has been some drama with Shapiro. He's always in some drama, ain't he? There is some drama with Shapiro right now, given the fact that, you know, all the drama with the governor's breakfast that the White House has. You know, the governor, Trump, excluded a gay governor. He excluded a black governor, the only black governor, which was Wes Moore, from this annual governor's breakfast. And it got to a point where Democrats wanted to pull out altogether. Well, Shapiro decided to show up to the breakfast because he's a pick-me, decided to show up to this breakfast And as a result of deciding to show up to that breakfast, he said he went because the Trump administration turned around and did decide to invite. And he said if they were going to invite, he would go. Now, at this point, why would Westmore show up after not being invited the first time? Like Mikey Sherrill, who is the new governor of New Jersey, Democrat, she decided not to go because all of the disrespect and chaos around it was just like, it's not happening. Governor Westmore says this quote very well of Maryland. He says, I will meet with anyone, but I will bow to no one. At this level, it's obvious that the Trump administration is not trying to be taken seriously. Shapiro argues that he went as a way of reaching across the aisle. That's what his team is saying. They're saying, look, he had some conversations about how his policies are impacting Pennsylvanians. Shut up, Shapiro. I'm sorry. Shut up. Shut up. Like, this is why people struggle with Democrats. Because in the midst of fascism, in the midst of chaos, they're trying so hard. I just feel like Shapiro needs to be honest that this is about you, your ego, and your presidential ambitions. You're so fucking ambitious that you think the rest of us think that you're on some humanitarian effort. There is no talking to Trump. There is no reasoning with Trump. Trump does not give a fuck about you. And I know what you're doing. You're doing this because you think that this is going to be the way that you're going to appeal to his mega voters. You think you can win them over. You know what it is? Democrats like Shapiro want to win over conservatives and MAGA because they know that they're so fucking boring that they cannot ignite the Democratic base. Got it. See, I see what's happening here. There are certain Democrats that can ignite the base and increase the electorate of Democratic voters so we will not be so hell-strung dependent on these goddamn middle-of-the-road, racist-ass mega voters, right? The problem is that the Democratic establishment is so old and so white and so tired and through that they know that they do not have it in them to excite the base. So now they have to keep moving more right rather than get more left, right? Mondani did what you motherfuckers can't do. He increased the electorate. They said there's no way that New York City is going to vote for a pro-Palestine Muslim millennial in a city with a majority of pro-Israel Jews, a majority of white Democratic establishment-leaning folks. There's no way that a Muslim millennial that's pro-Palestinian will win in New York City for mayor. They said there will be no way. Mondani said, wait a minute. I need to wake up the base and I need to increase the electorate. If it's a Democratic race, why can't I win as a Democrat? And so what he did was he increased voter turnout. He brought people out to the polls that would not show up. It is what Barack Obama did. And that's what Mondani did. You build a consensus. You don't fucking cater to an old one. You build a voter pool. And if you does not have the imagination to build a voter block, then that is not the kind of person that can win the White House in 2028. And it's not the way that Democrats will win and take over the White House. The person that wins 2028 is the person that builds an electorate. That is what Donald Trump did in 2016 when he began to see his base begin to ship on votes. He had to increase a group. He brought out the bigots. He brought out the neo-Nazis. He brought a group of people that was not interested in electoral politics. He brought them back, okay? And what did Biden do? Biden won some of those people back over. Some of those Republicans that got a little scared, he won some of them over. But you know what he also did? He also increased voter turnout for folks that felt like they had a real fighter. Somebody's got to increase the pie. And it looks like Shapiro's not trying to be that guy. But furthermore, to add insult to injury, right? He goes to that breakfast, fine. But now I'm sensing and I'm hearing that there are Black Democrats who are in Pennsylvania that are pissed, wondering why he couldn't raise the flag half-mast in memorial of the late Jesse Jackson, as he did for Charlie Kirk. So now we're seeing a pattern, and I've been calling this pattern for quite some time. Josh Shapiro put up the picture with him and Jesse Jackson Look, someone will say, well, they're not Pennsylvanians. Charlie Kirk wasn't a Pennsylvanian. Why he do it? And why do you feel the need to do it? Why can't Governor Shapiro, who has the power and authority, why won't you raise your flag in memorial of a civil rights leader like Jesse Jackson? And why is it that it seems like reaching across the aisle only applies to cooperating with bigots? Why is it that coming across the aisle means compromising your democratic principles to align yourselves with these far-right extremists? Make it make sense. I'm just seeing a lot of acquiescence right now from all these Democrats, with Jarrell Parker, with Josh Shapiro. Like, it just seems like everybody keeps kowtowing over there with the Democratic establishment. It's getting played out. It's a tired, broken record. Like, this is fear. And nobody got time for that. So this week's Ask Ernest, I'm going to address something on this show that I'm not going to say out loud anywhere else. So if you listen to the podcast, you will get some tea, but I'm not putting this out publicly anywhere else. So if you know, you know. There'll be more to say down the road, but I want to address this because, it's a lot. And yeah. So one of the things that I want to share is that I had breakfast on Friday with the president of NABJ Philly. Yes, you heard that correctly, NABJ Philly. He's new to Philadelphia. He is 34 years old. He is a sports reporter at 6ABC. He got elected in the position literally, I want to say in December of last year. So this is very new. He's been in Philadelphia for maybe less than a year. He came from Connecticut. Got thrown into the role. Didn't know much about the politics around the whole NABJ thing. I mean, he's heard things, of course, but we never knew each other, and he didn't really know much about everything, only what he was told. And the irony is that he just so happened to get his haircut at my barbershop. And my barber has a picture of me hung up in the shop, for those who know. And I guess in conversation, my barber is putting two together because he's like, oh, you're a reporter, you're a journalist, you should be a part of that's Ernest, he's the president of Black journalists. And he says it's very vaguely like, he's the president of Black journalists. And he's like, oh, well, I'm the president of Black journalists. He's like, what? And so there becomes that like Spider-Man thing, same girl, same guy, what you mean, what you're talking about. And long story short, they had gotten a conversation and he says, hey, this guy doesn't know so much. Would you be down to talk with him? And I said, listen, in the words of my great guy, Wes Moore, I will talk to anyone. I will bow to no one. So we talked on Thursday and we just talked on the phone and we began to compare some notes. What was you told? What did you know? What did I know? And we had some real deep conversation that led to us having breakfast the next morning on Friday. And we had a deeper conversation. What will come out of that conversation? Stay tuned. I won't say everything on this, but I know that a couple of you all got some spidey senses and y'all be seeing some things. And I know how you all catch some things. Somebody noticed that we became Facebook friends over the weekend, and we were Facebook friends, and people were like, and people was messaging me like, and I was like, well, damn, can y'all not get ahead of but you guys are on it. Like, listen, there's the beehive and there's the ehive. No, I'm joking, but no ass, seriously. There's you all will just see things and you be knowing. So I said, you know what? I wasn't going to say anything yet because you know how I am. I'm the type that like to cook everything in the oven. But shit, if you saw it, I'm not hiding anything. You know, I listen, as somebody who demands a right to know for elected officials every day, I will tell you something. So what I will say right now is that we're having some great conversation. We are not really broadcasting the conversations, you know, what the details are to everybody. You know, he's going to have to go back to those old heads, you know, over there in NABJ Philly. He's going to have to go back to some of those disgruntled, backstabbing ass people. And he's going to have to tell them, like, listen, I learned some things that I did not know, and some things are adding up. And what I will say, without spilling all the tea, is that he's running into the same patterns of paternalism and problems that I experienced when I dealt with that group. And so one thing I'll say about him is that he seems to have a good head on his shoulders. And, you know, we both are realizing as two Black young men that we shouldn't be getting pit against each other because, I mean, that's just pointless. Second is that we have a bigger calling and a bigger purpose and passion. And I think that all of us are stronger together than divided. But you know, when you got these boomers and these Gen Xers that want everybody to fight they fights, you know that's how they do that though. They always, I've noticed that there's a generation, these messy Gen Xers, they're really messy. I gotta say, the boomers are too, and they own fucking way, creeps. But the Gen Xers are messy because what they like to do is they like to weaponize and use millennials as the chess piece to fight their fights. So they put us in positions and they get, because I mean, even when I was before NABJ and PABJ had split and all the things, I remember even when I think about the people that I thought were my mentors, how they preyed on my youth, my courage, my young spirit, my ambition, and eagerness to grow and learn. And they took advantage of that to put me in positions where I was fighting battles that, quite frankly, I had no business fighting, getting in the middle of things that I wasn't fully versed on. And whereas some people would just blame them, I take full responsibility for the things I had said at that time and did. I don't, I wish in some cases I would have done some things differently, but I don't say anyone made me do something, but they definitely instigated things for sure. I think I would have not been as hot in certain situations that I was in if it was not for the ways in which they showed up. And there's just certain things that I've noticed just in life as I'm entering my mid-30s is that one thing I told myself, lessons I learned from that situation just in life, I am never going to go harder for anyone else's shit than I would go for my own shit. What I mean for that is that some people will prompt you up because you have a platform, because you have a voice, because you have resources, because you have courage, pretty much, right? And audacity. And they will yield that to have you do the things that they don't want to do or they're uncomfortable to do. And my whole thing is, if you are someone who is feeling like you're being wronged, you got to put some skin in the game in your own situation. And I've dealt with that as a journalist, right? I'll have people come to me and tip me off about certain stories and issues. And I would be like, okay, thank you for telling me this. Can you go on record though? Oh, I can't go on record. No one can go on record. So you all want me to just report a bunch of stuff that I'm not fully invested in. Now, one thing is, if it's a situation where I'm personally invested in it and I personally am willing to do the fight, then I'm down with that. But what I don't like, and I see this happen to a lot of people, is that folks will gas people up to stand on something, to do something, and then you will get caught up in the web of whatever the fight is, and then the people who you were advocating for then disappeared. Nah. That was something that I learned very early after that. That was a life lesson I took away from that. Like, there are certain things that, like, when I look back, like, next month, actually, will be the 3-year anniversary since I've been banned from NABJ. And it will be 3 out of my 5-year sentence. Like, first of all, I don't think I'm coming the fuck back, to be honest. I don't think I will be. I never say never, but I don't know. I don't really know how that's going to work. But it's been 3 years since, and I'm at a space now where I can be in certain spaces with some insufferable ass people and not be triggered or uncomfortable. But that took some time because that shit was very painful and very hurtful. And you all know that. You all have been through that saga. You heard the episode. You all know what I went through. And so going through that and being in what I'm being in now, I see things in a very different light. I'm in a space now where I know who were the bad guys and who were naysayers and who were complicit, right? I know who these people are now. And I'm okay with entering spaces where they are at. And you know what's funny? I can go in certain rooms and I don't have to leave. I don't leave. But you know who leaves? They do. They leave. They leave. They don't stay long or they act weird. But I've promised myself that I will never. One thing I learned, there's several things I take away. Some of my takeaways from that is that, one, I will never fight someone's cause harder than they would for themselves. That was one lesson I learned from that experience. A second lesson I learned was, if you did not do anything wrong, do not operate in shame. So when I went through this entire experience, when they were saying I was banned, all the things, there was a hesitancy in the very beginning of coming out and naming that experience. And I had to take a step back and go, I didn't do anything wrong. Why should I be the one to be silent? Why should I be the one? And I think what it was for me was embarrassment. It was embarrassing. Not necessarily because I did something or I was, I regretted what I did. I had no regrets. I did the right thing. But I had a level of embarrassment because of how I was considering other people and what it would look like for us as Black journalists. But I realized in that moment, I can't let the white gaze of other people's perception of Black people stop me from exposing bad Black folks. And so in that moment, I realized, don't operate in shame if you've done nothing wrong. So I didn't hide. I wasn't silent about what happened to me. And while some people was like, oh, don't say it like that or don't put that out there about yourself, I just didn't give a fuck because I realized, why am I operating? That's what they would want you to do. When you've been wrongly accused of something, when you've been lied on, when you've been slandered, you don't go away. No, you don't go away. You stand 10 toes down. You show the fuck up. You're present. You don't go hiding. Why are you hiding? What is there to hide? You make other people have to do that. They have to deal with that. If they're uncomfortable, they don't want to be affiliated. And I have fake ass people that I thought were my friends that distanced themselves from me when this happened. Y'all know some of the names. And they distanced themselves because I wasn't, the thing. But I believe that when you know your friend is innocent, when you know your people are being wronged, that's when you're supposed to even show up even more for them. When you know, in my situation, my shit wasn't even criminal. My shit was just a situation of like, people who saw that these people were being ruled. And I know the people who strayed away, got silent, and disappeared. And I know the people who even further show love to me and gave me space and treated me like a person. I'll never forget those people. I won't. I know the people who distanced themselves, who got quiet, who ran off and hid. I know those people. And I just want to say one of the most touching nights of my life was the 2023 PABG Awards, because so much had happened that year, and the people that showed up and supported and was down, listen, I just, yeah. So those are some of the lessons I learned. And I think I'm in a space where where I'm at with it, people, I know the question, right? The question is, well, are y'all going to come to an understanding, agreement, whatever? Listen, we might not. But the one lesson I've learned, and this is the takeaway for me before I conclude this, because I don't want to spill any tea or anything. What I will say is that I think you should live a life where there's always a winning outcome, if you can control it. Like, I don't ever, I operate in a space where I can always find a silver lining in whatever situation I'm in. Everything's not perfect, but I can always find a scenario that there is a win-win scenario. My mindset is, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. If it's not, what else do I have? I don't ever put all of my aspirations and hope into one thing, one person, one situation, because I have to. You know what I'm saying? Like, I thought about it the other day. I was doing my show with Carl Singley, which he was on the record with Ernest Owens, my show on Word. And we had a real talk. And if y'all listen to that show, it got really real on there. We had some real good talk on there. But I had a moment where I was like, I was saying some things and I was like, oh, snap. Am I pushing an edge where I might not have this show? Talking about on the record, because I sometimes I keep it too real. And I had a moment on the show where I said, listen, if they take me off the air, if I don't have this show on Word, and let me be very clear, there's been no talks of any of that, but just that people always say these things, they always toss these fears. I have Ernestly Speaking. I have my own podcast. I have my own platforms. I have my own shit. Like, I don't necessarily need, it's nice to have relationships with certain places and get published places, but I'm in a space where my income, see, here I go, but it's real. My income is diversified in a way that taking one or two, certain things from me does not stop my bag, does not stop my ability to do what I want to do. As you all have seen for over 10 years. Like, I don't live in that space. I don't operate from a space of fear. It's me operating from a space of fearlessness and optimism, fearless optimism, that has allowed me to not give up. And what's funny to me is that some of the people who take the least amount of risk than I do, that don't really shake a damn thing, have more fear than I do, have more imposter syndrome than I do, have more insecurity than I do, and have more hesitancy than I do. Why the fuck would I want to be you? And there's no shade, but really though, some of the people that come up to me and forewarn me about the things that I say and the work that I do, I'm like, and how is it working for you not saying anything? How is silence working for you? How miserable are you? How insecure? How anxious are fucking you? Like, I look at some people that swear up and down, I'm never in drama. I'm never in this. Good for you. How's that working for you though? Because you don't look that happy. Your skin is not as clear as mine. You're not having great sex. I can tell. Are you getting sleep? Are you, like, how is it working for you? Like, to the people that are like always scared, how is that working for you? To the people that don't want to shake the boat, how is that working for you? Are you getting what you want? Do you feel a level of ease and peace and good? Do you feel purposeful? Do you feel worthy? Like, do you feel desired? Do you know what that feels like? Because I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like to taste victory. I know what it feels like to feel vindication. I know what it feels like to get some shit off my motherfucking chest and can be able to go to bed at night and not have to feel like my tongue was held. That's what freedom feels like. And so many of you are afraid of freedom. But then you want liberation. Who's going to liberate you if you can't liberate yourself? Liberation starts with yourself. It starts with you. What are you going to no longer accept? What are you no longer going to tolerate in your fucking life? What are you going to do to protect and defend your freedoms yourself first? Too many of you are waiting for somebody else to start that journey. I can't do it all by myself. Clearly, I need the course, activists, community. I need all those things to help too. But damn it, I got to do it first for me. Because this is my life. And so many people are living their life under the guise and the gaze of other people. And if that's what you got to do what you got to do. But don't yuck my yam. Don't tell me to be quiet. Don't tell me how to live my fucking life. Because you're projecting your insecurities. I've noticed that the most entrapped people are the most suppressive to other people's freedoms. The irony is, I'm not trying to run around and force people into liberation if they don't want it for themselves. I'm not trying to tell people. I rarely, seldom tell people individually how they should live their life. I tell people to not be bigots because that impacts my fucking life. But I don't tell people how to personally live their life. But I've noticed in my career, so many people got opinions about how I should live and how I should show up. Oh, why do you get your nails colored? Because I like my nails to be colored, actually. I like my nails. I like my Telfar bags, actually. I like to wear lip gloss. I sometimes like to wear mesh. I like to have opinions. I like to curse on social media. I like to drink. I like to be all the things. I like to be a freak. I say I like to be a freak. I like to be a freak to my man. I like to have a man. I like to be queer. I like to be smart. I like to read books. I like to believe in science. I like to embrace different ways of life. I like my life. And I think so many people feel like they have to justify and explain who they are in ways that is unrequired. I recognize that being someone who is liberated, Freudian slip, someone that is self-liberated, that I can understand how it poses a threat to other people, to government entities, to politicians, to, I guess, the establishment elite. I get that. But at the end of the day, I also look at what they're doing, and it's not working. It's not working. Respectability politics is not working. Conforming to institutions with no reciprocity is not working. I'm not saying everybody got to turn the table and clock tomorrow and flip every table. I'm not saying it at all. We all have levels of self check-ins and reading the room, but it does not have to be this extreme. It does not have to be this extreme. And I think people have put so many cages on themselves that they've lost sight of who they are. I found myself in that trap many, many years ago in certain aspects of my life. There was a time where I did not think I could be as queer and as openly gay as I am today. I did not think that was going to be possible, honestly. I know what I was going to do. I didn't think that I could professionally navigate journalism when I'm doing it. And on top of that, I didn't know that I could be a professional in the way that I am and navigate, countering a lot of the respectability politics that was being instilled on me. I didn't know until I did. So I say all this to say that I'm in a space in my life where I can have different kinds of conversations that I couldn't have had before. And I'm also in a space of accepting the realities either way. Look, I like the conversation I'm having with this NABJ Philly president. We have more in common than we have different. And I'm looking forward to seeing that can lead to some meaningful change. It would be nice. But let me also be clear, I'm not afraid to take a risk and not it go different. Because the reality is, to not take the phone call, not take the meeting, would have been a situation where I would have never known and I would have had to hang it over my head. Now there's a possibility that maybe something positive can happen from this. Maybe things can get in a good track. I'm optimistic for that. But I'm also in the mindset that none of this could work. These conversations could go nowhere. It could all be a fucking flop. And guess what? I can return back to doing what I do, which is slay all day. And they will go back to what they've been doing, which I don't know what the hell that is. And we can all continue to go back to life as usual. But wouldn't it be fun? Like, have anybody ever thought, what would it be like to actually win? And because I've been fortunate to know what victory looks like, I oftentimes am so lost in the dream of the possibility of what would it be if we won. What if we actually win? What if we actually take it to infinity and beyond? What if there could be peace in the Philly East? Like, what if, And so that's kind of what leads me, is that when I say I have a win-win situation, the win-win is that nothing can change. And guess what? We good over here anyway. Or something could change and it can make things even better. So that's that. You know what I'm saying? We'll see. This is the Ernestly Speaking exclusive. I won't say this anywhere else until, I'm going to have to. So moving along, movies. So much is going on with movies right now. First of all, Toy Story 5. What? We're in the 31st anniversary of Toy Story 1. And now Toy Story 5 is coming this summer. They're now rectifying with tech toys. Apparently the new storyline is wrapped around this idea of like electronic, like AI type of toys. Like a little smart pad that's replacing screen time. Like screen time is replacing toy time. And it's an interesting conversation. I said, wow, we've come full circle. Because in 95, when I was like 4 years old and Toy Story came out, we were talking about video games, but that was just nothing. That wasn't, it was little video games. And then we got to 2000 or 1999. 4 years later, I was around 8 and Toy Story 2 comes out. And we're talking about a little bit about some of the new things about replacing toys, and conversations get a little bit more interesting. Then we get to 2010. And at this point, I am like 19 years old. And we're talking about, video games, but still toys are at the epicenter of that. A little bit more robotic, but Toy Story is evolving. And then Toy Story 4 comes out a couple years later. And then now we're at Toy Story 5. I mean, it's just like, where has the time has passed? Like, Toy Story 4 came out in 2019. So 6 years later, 9 years after Toy Story 3, now 7 years later, like these movies are coming fast. Like these movies are coming out fast. Like it's like they're sequels. It took 4 years for the first sequel, then it took literally 10 years later, and then another 9 years later, and then now 7 years later. Like it's just a thing. And listen, Tom Hanks and Tim Allen keeps coming back. So I mean, we're in for a show. It's a very interesting full circle experience. Like people who, like I'm just thinking now, like folks that see the first Toy Story can now take their kids to see. Yeah, it's just like, what is this? This is like a full circle moment. Like if I had kids right now, I could have taken my kid. Like if I had 2019, I was like 28. Shit, I could have took my wow. I can't even imagine. My goodness. But I got friends I went to school with, like high school, like they're taking their kids to see Toy Story, and we're like, remember when we saw Toy Story? I'm like, yeah, it's still here. Crazy. But outside of that, award season is shaking up. Next Sunday, March 1st, is the Actor Awards, which is AKA the Screen Actors Guild Awards, the SAG Awards. But I'm a little shook right now, y'all, because the BAFTAs, which is the Academy Awards of the British, had their award show. And there was some interesting winners that like shook the table up. Like I was gagged. For starters, Best Picture went to Best Picture went to One Battle After Another. It won 6 awards. It won Best Picture. So that was pretty, I guess you could say nice. Not a surprise. I think we all think that One Battle After Another is going to win Best Picture. But there was also some very interesting surprises. Marty Supreme had 11 nominations and it won none. The winner for Best Actor did not go to Leonardo DiCaprio or to Timothée Chalamet. It went to this actor who played in this film called I Swear, this British actor, which isn't necessarily crazy, but his name is Robert Aramayo. It's a British indie film that he starred in called I Swear, and he wins Best Actor. It was quite the surprise. A lot of people did not see that coming. He's 33 years old, and he was very stunned. He said absolutely mad. He said he couldn't believe he won. He was very surprised that he won the award, and I was surprised he won too. I was like, what? This little British indie film? But you gotta remember the BAFTAs is an indie film, so I understand, what happened. He's been in a couple of different. He's 6 foot tall. He was in Lord of the Rings. The Rings of Power. He was in the Rings of Power, not the Lord of the Rings. The Rings of Power. Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. He really can't believe he won. I couldn't believe he won. I was shocked by his win, to be honest. And you just never know, right? You just never know how that's going to play out. But this is the way that business works. So that tells me that because they cannot get a consensus, that's a wake up call for me, because BAFTA has us at the edge of our seat. I don't know what's going to happen now for Best Actor. Timothée Chalamet has been winning everything, and there's a very strong chance he might win the SAG award. But it's still like, BAFTA could even decide between them, Best Supporting Actress had a major shocker at BAFTA. It went to Wunmi Mosaku, who won for Best Supporting Actress for her character Annie in Sinners. She hasn't won anything this year. And so for her to win that had me gagged. I gagged, y'all. I gagged. Because I was like, oh, maybe, it'll probably be like Tiana Taylor, maybe, One Battle After Another got all these nominations. But for winning to win, that was another shocker. Major shocker, actually. So then Best Lead Actress went to, and again, everybody just thought she was just going to be pulling upsets. Best Lead Actress went to Jessie Buckley for Hamnet. I keep telling y'all to go watch Hamnet. Hamnet is on Peacock. Her performance is stellar. It's an incredible performance. She definitely deserves it. Best Supporting Actor, again, another surprise. Sean Penn for One Battle After Another. I was gagged because I was like, I thought we had already established, this is happening. We're giving this award, like we're really giving this award to, this person. I was surprised by that. It was a very big surprise, actually. But yeah, One Battle After Another is happening. I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be Stellan Skarsgård. You got in this category Benzino del Toro, Jacob Elordi, Paul Mescal, Sean Penn, and Stellan Skarsgård. I just thought that it was a foregone conclusion that Stellan Skarsgård was going to win for the sentimental value. That didn't happen. So I just have a lot of of thoughts. I mean, at this point, I think it's safe to say that Jessie Buckley is going to win Best Actress. Best Leading Actor, I gotta see what SAG is saying. Best Supporting Actress, I definitely gotta see what SAG is saying about that. Best Supporting Actor, I feel like it's a wild card. I have not seen consistent winners. Okay? I mean, Jacob Elordi won at the Golden Globes, the Critics Awards. I'm sorry. No, I take that back. Stellan Skarsgård won at the Golden Globes. Jacob Elordi won at the Critics Awards. Sean Penn won at SAG. I need to see, I mean, and it's obvious that Stellan Skarsgård is not going to win at SAG either because he's not nominated. So my frontrunner, Stellan Skarsgård, for Sentimental Value, I'm getting a little worried because now I do sense that this race might be between Jacob Elordi and Sean Penn. And Sean Penn might be pulling that upset. Because everybody kept talking about Benzino del Toro, but Benzino ain't been winning shit. I mean, he's won some Critics Awards, but nothing heavy. We got to see what's going to happen at SAG on March 1st. I got to see what's happening at SAG on March 1st. I can't call Best Supporting Actor anymore. It's up in the air. Best Supporting Actress, I got to see what SAG is doing. I'm still holding out for Tiana Taylor, but I don't know. It's been another messy race. I mean, Amy Madigan wasn't even nominated for Best Supporting Actress at SAG. I mean, it's just weird because Amy Madigan won at the Critics Awards. Tiana Taylor won at Golden Globes. So I got to see what SAG is going to do to weigh that out. SAG, let us know. SAG is going to tell me what I need to know about Best Supporting Actor and Best Supporting Actress. Now, Best Lead Actress, I think that's my safest bet. Jessie Buckley is taking it home. She has not lost anything yet, okay? She's getting it. She's taking it. Best Lead Actor, I'm going to go with Timothée Chalamet. He's been picking up most of the awards. I don't really see him not winning. I think Timothée Chalamet, I think we got to be, I think Timothée Chalamet is going to take. I mean, he's this guy he lost to. This guy's not going to the Oscars. This is a British category. So I think I want to say Timothée Chalamet for now, but I'm going to hold off. 100%. So we're going to see. We're going to see. So, music. There's a lot going on in music right now. Jill Scott album, you all asked me what I thought about it. You know, do I want to say this? I appreciate Jill Scott's music. I like the music. I do. Yeah. Yeah. I won't, how do I put this? I won't get into, I'll just say this. There are some interesting decisions that Jill Scott as a person has made that I think that some of her takes gives like Hotep, Erykah Badu energy. And I think she shares a lot of those types of ideals. And I really don't want to, the more I know about Jill Scott's views on things, the more I get turned off. So I'm just kind of like, the music is good. So that's what I'm gonna say. The music is good. I'll leave it at that. I like the music. But yeah. I'll leave it at that. Hilary Duff dropped her new album, Luck or Something. A very good album. I think I did enjoy it. It's a great return to form for Hilary Duff. Listen, I love me some Hilary Duff, y'all. I grew up on her. I was a true fan. You know, she's 38. She's a Libra. She'll be 39 later this year. She's just cool. Like, Hilary Duff is just always maintain a level of coolness. Like, she's just never out of style. Like, I like her. This new album is good. She's got drama, right, with her sister Haley Duff. They don't talk about what the drama is about, but like for those who've been following Hillary Duff, okay, Hillary, her sister's a Trumper. Haley Duff is a Trumper. Yes, the sister that she did, that she was close with. Yeah, it's crazy. It's not good. So we know Hillary Duff is not a Trumper, and we love that, okay? And she was born in Houston, Texas, actually. And I remember she performed at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, but she was born in Houston. She's from Houston, which that makes so much sense because I remember like growing up, I was like, her whole look reminds me of some of the girls I had known back then. She's from Houston. And I'm so happy that she also addressed that stupid ass toxic mom thing with Ashley Tisdale, who I can't stand Ashley Tisdale. She's so annoying. I love that Hillary Duff like addressed it and was just like, girl, like, she addressed the stuff in her own way. She says, did that experience give you pause about re-entering the pop world? And she said, I mean, this is not new for me. She said, I've had this since I was maybe 15 and starting to get followed around by paparazzi. Everything starts getting documented and everyone knows my life and all the players in it. So the stories that get news pick up, it's not what happens to a normal person who maybe became an actor as an adult. And now it's escalated by the talking heads on TikTok that need clickbait. Like, I love listen, like, I'm not about to do all this stuff. Yeah, she like, girl, she ain't worried about this. I like her. I just do. And the thing is, she wrote a song talking about her sister. And I appreciate the fact that she is at a place where she like, look, my sister crazy. She didn't say that, but she just interviewed with CBS and she addressed everything like the Libra she is. And I enjoy it. I enjoy her. So yeah, she's going on tour in August. She's coming to Philly and I'm annoyed because I'm going to be at Martha's Vineyard by then, so I won't be able to actually see her. But, man, it's going to be a good show. I'm going to have to find a way to see her again. But she's great. I'm happy she's doing a full-fledged tour. Sarah McLachlan is back on tour. And y'all know I got front row tickets. She's coming to the Man. She's going to be in Philadelphia in July. I got my tickets. This is hot off of her Tiny Desk performance, which, listen, it was the best 26 minutes I've had of the week. And y'all know, let me some Sarah McLachlan. This is the third consecutive year I've seen Sarah McLachlan. I saw her not last month. I saw her in November at the Met. I saw her in the year before that. I saw her at the Man. Now she's back at the Man. And she's continuing her tour. So got my tickets. I just love me some Sarah McLachlan. I mean, why not? And then I want to talk about two other quick things. Where do I want to go first? I want to talk about this real quick. R. Kelly. There has been an unhealthy revival of R. Kelly. People are like, all these celebrities are coming out the woodwork to try to go up for R. Kelly. I'm just trying to figure out why. Like, it's been this weird, like, trying to, like, normalize him. Kim Burrell. It's Kim Burrell, can't you tell? She's been talking about him and about forgiveness. Like, I've just noticed that. And then he's in some shit behind an old warden at the office. Like, there's a lot going on. So it's all that bullshit going on, right? And I'm sitting here like, okay. Then recently, Teddy Riley, that legendary producer, talked about working with R. Kelly on some music, had to recant his statement. It was a Los Angeles Times. Did a whole feature on him doing music. He's acting like he was going to do a new album with R. Kelly. Apparently, R. Kelly wants to do music to, like, pay his legal fees and make money while he's in prison. Like, this shit is ridiculous. And I see it. And I'm just like, so you all don't give a fuck about victims or survivors. Like, everybody, there's people out here like, oh, I still listen to R. Kelly. Like, it's a badge of honor. And so I'm at a point now where I'm just like, okay, so you just don't care about other people unless it happens to you. Well, remember that when it happens to you and you're asking other people to give a fuck, just remember this. Because I thought that at least we were on the same page, that was just not happening. I thought we was on the same page that R. Kelly was like not a thing. Guess I was wrong. Guess I was wrong. I guess I was wrong. The bar is on the floor. And then lastly, before I get onto TV, there's been a lot of talk about the Kendrick and Drake beef, whether Kendrick won or lost. There's been people that's been saying all kind of things about, oh, people are still jamming Drake in the club. So, Drake, Kendrick didn't really win and this and that third. Let me tell y'all something. We're going to wrap this up with a bun. Drake lost. And Drake lost. He lost. And it did make a major impact on him. Let me explain this very clearly. Culture is what is at the ethos of hip hop. If you don't have the culture like on your side, then you pretty much lose. It's not about how much money you make. It's not about how much streams you have. Hip hop has always been about culture. There is a cultural shift on Drake that has been caused from this Kendrick Lamar Drake beef. And there has been a cultural shift for Kendrick in ways that Drake does not have. Kendrick has secured his crown as the king of rap of our current era. He is the reigning champ. He is the undisputed champ. And not only that, but Kendrick has done it commercially, critically, and culturally. He has all of the big C's. Okay? He has the commercial success. He has the critical acclaim. And he has the cultural impact. That is what Drake don't have. Drake don't have the 3 C's. Drake has the commercial success. He still has streams. You can't take that from him. The man still is streaming stuff, right? But he hasn't had a number one hit in God knows how long. He has not had a number one hit. Critical acclaim, that's out the window. Like, no one's liking his new music. His fans are not excited. There's not been more chatter. He has lost that. And the culture, what cultural list? I mean, there are people that still play his old music. His old catalog music is what's keeping him. But no one's running for new Drake music. Nobody even's asking for new Drake music. And a lot of the new Drake music that's come out is not charting or lasting in the same way as his previous discography. Like Nokia was number 2. That's cute, right? But it doesn't have the same gravitas. I mean, Kendrick's last album, I believe, had like 3 number 1 songs. So I don't know. This man just won record of the year 2 years in a row. He's got like his 6th consecutive album of the year nomination. He kept a hip hop song on the charts when everybody else's songs couldn't stay in the top 40. Like, it's over. And it's so over that Drake, for the life of him, cannot figure out. Like, you all keep talking about this Iceman album that no one fucking wants or cares about. Maybe somebody cares, but like no one's anticipating the album. Like, he's been dry hinting it, doing all these things, and like nobody's like really galvanizing to it. He's fallen off. Like, he does not take over our social media timelines. I mean, didn't he just do like a little Valentine's Day or some little album he dropped or something? But it didn't catch traction. Like, he did some collaborative album. I forget who it was with, but like nobody really ran to it. Like, no one really was like, oh my goodness, we got to listen to this. Like, it's just kind of flat. And here's the thing, if he drops a new album, he might chart number 1, if it's a slow music week. But the numbers he used to do, the level to which we all stopped, dropped, and rolled for him, it's done. And these lawsuits he keeps doing has only made him an enemy to the culture. Like, rap beefs are rap beefs. You beef, you rap, you lose, you win, you get up, you move on. Like, it's just how it is. So for him to be creating all these conspiracy theorists about like, oh, the industry bid bots. Listen, they may have juiced it up. But Kendrick Lamar clearly represents and embodies the culture. I mean, streams, all that stuff, whatever. At the end of the day, everyone knows that song. Like, it's a moment. He performed at the Super Bowl. He won 5 Grammys last year and turned around and won several more Grammys this year. Like, the man is now the most Grammy Award-winning rap artist of all time. He has surpassed Jay-Z. So to those people that want to hold on to the Drake argument, Drake had a great moment. He had a great run. But it's over. It's over. Like, he'll come back. We'll still listen to him. Some people will. I'm not. I'm over him personally. But there'll be some people that will still enjoy him. I mean, there's not that many rappers out right now that are as relevant. I mean, you got Cardi, of course. You know, Doechii and, you know, somebody's baby. You know, one of the babies, I guess, are going to perform. But you just, you know, it's over for him. He's never going to reach that level to which he has reached. And the more and more he prolongs it is because I think it's rooted in his own fear. He knows how this goes. He knows the culturalness. I mean, Tyler, Creator, has created his own lane, you know. Other people have. Hell, even the Eclipse is out here killing it, you know? So I don't know. I think it's over for him. I think that I don't know why people are trying to debate this beef, like who won, who really won. It's clear. And then lastly, before I get into TV, because I want to mention this. So Opalite dropped, and I thought I told you all that I thought it was going to be number 1. You all surprised me. It debuted on the charts. It stayed on the charts at number 8. The music video and everything connected to this re-release did not track enough energy for her to be able to get it to number 1. And I thought all that energy she put into this video and this promo and these variations of the song, it stays in the top 10, but it's not. It didn't move. Bad Bunny has dominated the charts. He's got the number 1, number 2 top songs on the charts. Olivia Dean had was number 2 on the Billboard. She got number 2. She was almost close to number 1, but got number 2 with Man I Need, which is not bad. But other people, you know, they're staying their course. I mean, listen, Bad Bunny is maintaining his status. I mean, when he's had 2 back-to-back weeks of slayage, I mean, he had the Grammys, then he had, you know, the Super Bowl. That's nothing to sneeze at. You know, he returns to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. His album is number 1 again. You know, and the Fall Off by J. Cole was number 1 last week, you know, even though I didn't really care much for it. Well, it fell right off. Bad Bunny is back to number 1 again. So, you know, this is just, you know, this is the state of music. We're seeing a new realignment. There's a new global star to a certain extent, you know, so it's a moment, and we gotta take all that in, you know, and see where we have been for a while. So let's talk about Tyra. It's time. So Reality Check, Inside America's Next Top Model documentary. I have so many different thoughts about this documentary, or this docuseries, these 3 episodes. I want to talk technical before I get into it. I have so many thoughts, and I got so many thoughts. Some people might not like what I'm going to say, but you know, this is Ernestly speaking, not you speaking. But I need to say this. Let me start with the first part. My biggest pet peeve with this documentary is I feel like it should have been longer. I feel like it was too short. I would have enjoyed, like, I don't know, 8 episodes or maybe 5. I felt like there was a lot more things to unpack with the show. And so I just felt like off the top, it should have been longer. I feel like this felt a little half-baked to certain degrees because while I do understand that there were issues with America's Next Top Model, there's nothing you can, I am not that person that's saying there's no issues. What I don't like about the show is that it does not show you why people watched it. Because people did not just watch America's Next Top Model for the crazy extremities. Like, there were those things, and there's no denying about it. But it was also, like, some major wins and victories. And we saw some major stars. Like we saw Yaya, we saw Eva Marcel. We saw some people that really, we saw some beautiful Cinderella-like stories that came from those winners. And those winners were not just some hodgepodge made up folk. These people are still out here relevant and killing it. And so I was kind of a little annoyed watching the documentary that we didn't see any actual like winners or major players that had success stories be a part of that documentary. It felt very like handed in one direction, and I kind of felt like that there was a bias to a certain extent. And I mean, if that was what we were on, we wanted to expose it. I just feel like as a journalist and somebody who watched like documentaries, there's got to be a level where we got to understand the success and the victory, and we just didn't get enough of that. So it almost kind of felt like this show was like a circus where people just watched a bunch of messiness and it was evil and mean and nasty, and we all just want to watch people being mean and nasty. It wasn't just that. And I felt like, as somebody who lived through that era and watched America's Next Top Model for most of its duration, I didn't watch the latter years, but I watched a great many seasons and followed it. Like that was like every gay kid's like, listen. Okay, before there was Devil Wears Prada, listen, Tyra, like, anyway, there was a lot of things about that show that was aspirational, and it was fun, and it was a lot of things that I feel like just did not, that documentary did not really, I feel like, depict the overall impact and the cultural connection of the show. I felt that was what was underwhelming about it for me. Because I feel like if you're going to do a takedown, which they do, and it is strong, you got to let us understand what was it about it that made it decline. So there was not enough about the rise. It was all about the fall, but I just was like, you're not, because it was so much behind the scenes that it was like, well, we didn't know this watching it. So some of this context was missing. So that's one thing that I will say that technically I just felt like just as a show, as a series, they did not bring enough talent to counter it, to give us balance. And granted, there were some horrible things that happened. We're going to talk about that. But I just want to provide that the composition of the documentary, I felt like, was just very even-handed. Not even-handed, very disproportionately handed. The other issue I had with the show was that there seemed to be a lot of misdirected accountability. I just really felt like that some of the ways that they were interviewing people, I felt like more people should have been interviewed. Not just talent, but people involved with the show. I felt like, okay, we got Tyra, we got the one executive producers, and then the judges. But there should have just been more other people that played a role in that show that should have participated in the documentary. Like casting directors, some cameramen. I want to understand some of the cameramen that participated. Like, okay, y'all were on camera. Like, what was y'all agency in this shit, right? Some of the participants, we didn't see none of them, right? And I thought like that was some missed opportunities to provide context to me. I felt like that was missing. Like, where was Janice Dickinson? Like, Janice Dickinson is 71 years old. The fact that she just turned 71 years old. The fact that she was, like, not in the mix, I felt like was a mess. And apparently there are rumors that, that she's going to have, I guess, her own. There's a speculation that she's going to rebut Tyra's rewritten version of events and find to her side of the story. So apparently she wants to tell her own version, apparently, and that's why she wasn't doing this documentary. Which I guess is whatever, but I don't know. I just feel like there were so many missing people that I also kind of felt some type of way about that, because I felt like a lot of it, again, there was a lot of heavy-handed accountability put on Tyra, which, yeah, she should own some of it, but I felt like people don't understand the radio roles. Like, she was executive producer, she was the host. But she was not involved in a lot of some of the things that was happening on the show. And while she was a part of some of those things, I just feel like there was just this weird, disproportionate amount of accountability given to some people versus others. And then some people, I feel like, because Tyra was very, I guess, protective of the brand of it all, because it is part of her baby. She is one of the people that created it, and she still makes a lot of money off of it. So many people that want to admit how they felt, I just felt like it was too soft. So, like, you got the Jays, right? Like Jay, like you got Jay Alexander, you got the Jays, right? I felt like some of them, I'm like, can you not own some of the things, that you could have said, you could have talked about? Like Jay Manuel, he was a creative director at one point in time, right? And then you got Miss J, who was a runway coach. With Jay Manuel, I just felt like, because I watched that show, he really kind of browses off a lot of his behavior and kind of just plays a little bit too victim for me. And I'm kind of like, you did some things that wasn't okay. Like Mr. J and Miss J, like Miss J seemed to be very like, really self-reflective and was in denial about how they were. Nigel Barker was a photographer. He was the only one I felt like throughout the whole documentary that I found to be the most sobering and most straightforward about his role in things. I can appreciate that about him. And I think Miss J, to a certain extent, was very clear about who they were in it. But I feel like Mr. J personally kind of played like a little bit too much of a victim and what was going on. And I'm just like, all of y'all played a role. And I felt like a lot of it was shoveled on Tyra. And I only feel like the only reason why that shoveled on Tyra is because I do think the one major critique I have about Tyra is I do feel like she definitely threw her team under the bus. And she has her reasons for it. But I feel like her lack of communication, her lack of transparency with people through that journey, and the fact that she didn't maintain relationships afterwards, I do think that that was definitely not a good look. And I think for me, that's the part that I struggle with her, was like, okay, girl, you had your co-conspirators, but even you conspired against your co-conspirators. So like, you just can't be trusted, girl. Like, come on now. Like, So, and the fact that she hasn't even seen Miss J since the stroke, like Miss J on the show got a stroke, and they're trying to navigate that. Like, that was to me kind of like, clearly something's going on with her and Jay Manuel. I mean. Clearly something going on with them. But I just feel like Miss J is like, this is somebody that taught you when you were young coming in the game. Like, y'all had a relationship long before. And even with Mr. J, there was that relationship too. But it's just like, yeah, like, what is this? You know what I mean? So I thought that was very concerning in so many different ways. And that wasn't cool. So that was a shocker because I didn't know anything about that. That was a revelation about Miss J's stroke. But outside of that whole dynamic, I feel like the rise in critiques about the show and elements of the show, while we have a 2026 mindset to recognize there are problems, and there were some things that was unacceptable even at the time, right? Like, I think the whole race thing that they did where people was in blackface, which they did not once but twice. And I appreciate people bringing up that they did that whole race thing twice. Like, ethnicities things. Like, it wasn't just the first time. They did that shit twice. So I'm happy that got mentioned in the documentary, which was weird. It was weird back then. It was weird now. I remember when I first watched that, I was like, I was cringing at it then. So sometimes the whole we didn't know, we didn't this, I'm like, yeah, nah, that was weird then. It was weird now. So there was some stuff where I was like, BS. But I think for me, a lot of the show showcased issues that we have been hearing about America's Next Top for the past couple years. There's been this ongoing campaign to bash Tyra for everything. And I just feel like, again, we cannot retroactively try, like, as someone wrote the book, The Case for Cancel Culture, like, I'm all for cancel culture and all the things. But I do think these are the things that annoy me when we lack historical context, right? Because my whole thing is, if you understand the reality TV world, all these shows got to get indicted. If you want to go there, if you want to. I don't think you should. I don't think that we should spend so much energy trying to retroactively cancel or just really go out our way to rewrite history. Because here's the thing. The early 2000s had the most ratchet reality TV. And I'm so happy that this is being talked about because I want to remind everybody that, remember how everybody's talking about Zeus, right? One day we're going to have a whole conversation about Lemmy and Zeus and how problematic those shows are. I'm here for it because they're problematic as fuck. However, right, we can have that conversation in 2026 in real time with that show, with baddies and all these shows. However, I just really feel like there's so many things that we have not retroactively addressed. Like, look, the Jerry Springer documentary came out like, a year or so ago. We're finally really able to talk about Jerry Springer. Jerry Springer was trash then, it was trash now, and you all let it slide. Everybody was watching Maury thinking it was entertaining. I still find Maury to be entertaining. But like, there could be an argument made about how problematic that was. But all of those shows was doing it. All of these shows, like 95% of these types of shows were all problematic. So to try to act like America's Next Top Model was on this other different wavelength, it's just not true. It's just not. Like, Making the Band was problematic as shit. Amazing Race, Fear Factor. Like, I mean, I can't even keep going on. Flavor of Love. Like, all of those types of shows were problematic. One could even argue that The Bachelorette, all these new shows out now have issues. But I'm saying this to say that those shows would have not existed without viewers. So while you're indicting Tyra and the rest of them, what I kind of did appreciate about the documentary, even though it didn't delve enough into this, is that everybody is to blame for the show. And when I mean everybody, I mean even the contestants. Well, while in some cases, right, let me be very clear, that the groping that some of those women experienced, some of the inappropriate sexual harassment those women experienced, that was completely inappropriate. And there was no excuse for it then as it is now, okay? Let me be very clear about that. However, some of the shit that those girls were doing on that show, people need to be honest about how they played it up themselves. Some of the girls who was talking, I was like, you knew it was TV, and some of them girls turned it up so they could be TV. Everybody was in on it, and whereas some things might have been edited to their dislike, no one told you to put the words in your mouth. No one told you to say certain racist, problematic, stereotypical things. No one told you to say that, and if they did and you did it, well then you got to be real about what you chose to do. You a grown ass person. You know, my grandma used to always say, and somebody say to drop off the bridge, will you? That's what I want to say to some of those girls. I was like, let's be fucking for real. You played into it. And also as a society, we accepted the norms of those industries. Back then, to hear people be starving to be a model was not a very foregone conclusion. To hear stories of people rehearsing without any sleep, being sleep deprived, walking like we accepted that for fame in Hollywood. We believed that that's what people have to do to be famous. We just was like, oh shit, that's what you got to do. Like we accepted horrible bosses. We embraced the Miranda Priestleys of the world, the people that overworked their interns without giving them good pay. Like that was the norm in society. Like those were things that we were so obsessed with the ruggedness and Americana of it all. That, oh, to be the American, to do this means to be rugged, to work hard, to pull yourself up. Like that was the DNA of American ideals back in that era. And so it was not uncommon to hear stories of people not being paid or people being exploited or people being like, and again, these are not good things, but this was socially acceptable. It was socially acceptable for rappers to say the F word in regards to gay people. It was socially acceptable for white people to say on national TV, that, it's not their preference to date black people. Like, it was okay for people to make racial stereotypes on TV and laugh at it. It was okay for a movie like Malibu's Most Wanted that is problematic and racist as fuck to be on TV in theaters. Like, it was okay for Eminem to say the F word on TV. Like, people socially accepted those things. And so if that is the America that we lived in, then you cannot separate that and take out Tyra Banks' show and just completely, like, this was the era of slut shaming. This was the era where people called Britney Spears a slut. This was the era where people judged Beyonce for her booty and her curves. This was the era where people slut shamed Monica Lewinsky. Like, let's not ignore the way that we talked about sex, the way that we talked about women, the way that we talked about bodies. Let's not reinvite the script. And for all of these goddamn Gen Zers who was not born or who was little and didn't know anything about it, I get it. I know. I understand. And let me be very clear. I was a kid watching that shit. And listen, many people were not having the conversation they're having now. Okay? But we cannot ignore that there were breakthroughs on that show. It gave opportunities to trans models, black women with vitiligo. It did things for people that were plus size. It did increase opportunities for darker skinned women in ways that other people were not paying attention to. Tyra's grand experiment, even though there were major flaws, it did succeed in certain aspects of how we look at beauty and how we talk about models. And though she was not as progressive as she could have been, you got to understand that that was considered progressive in its time. It was. You had to be there. It's easy to criticize people where they are. It is. Like, even Obama, the way that people talk about Obama, listen. In 2008, to have a black male be the president of the United States and to be warm and receptive to gay marriage at a time when that was not the way of the country, I will never forget that what Obama did for gay marriage. I understand that today, marriage, just the conversation around marriage, I get it. I understand. But we don't get to conversations about trans rights and pronouns if we don't get through the era to which we had inroads on gay marriage. And we got to look at the society we was in. Blame your fucking parents before you blame Tyra Banks. Blame your teachers, your elected officials before you try to and try to convict and go hard at Tyra solely. You got to put it all in perspective. I think about comedy, for example, right? I think about Comedy View and how back in the day, it was okay to make the certain homophobic jokes. But you got to understand that a lot of comedians have swayed away from that kind of humor. And that the reason why there is a disdain for Dave Chappelle is that in spite of the evolution of society and how people have changed on these issues, Dave Chappelle is still giving 1990s jokes in the 2020s. And that's why people have a problem with him. I think with Tyra is not Tyra is not trying to do what she used to do now. And so for people to try to retroactively indict her for shit that happened 20-something years ago and some much sooner, I just feel like it's just politically, intellectually dishonest and politically incorrect. And I just find it that I can understand holding Tyra accountable for some things, and I do agree with them. I do think we let these contestants off the hook a little bit. Some of them, okay? Some of them were definitely being catty because they wanted the show. And I think this documentary does also expose that one can only be played if they allow themselves to be played. Some of them came back on the show and continued to want to compete to win again. Some of them were exploited and then went back to continue to be exploited because they liked the attention and want the opportunity. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on that. I just really feel like we cannot keep doing revisionist history when it comes to these conversations. And where I do think that Tyra needs to look in the mirror, I mean, I hear that she's trying to do another season. Cycle 25, I heard. I wouldn't be doing a Cycle 25, but I'm also wondering what will that look like and will people come back and watch it? I mean, I don't think the show will ever be the same after the Jays and everybody else is left. I don't know. But Tyra is an entrepreneur and she wants to try. So those are my thoughts on that show. So as we can see, the snow is returning. What are my plans this week? Child, I don't even know. I thought I knew. If you would have asked me this same time last week, I would have told you. I would have been hitting up some new restaurants to try out. I would have been, teaching my students right before spring break. And now I'm going to have one day of teaching, which is this upcoming Wednesday if the snow gets better. But there's no CCP on Monday. As you can see, I'm already snowed in. I'm going to be warm and snuggled, and I'm going to be deeply writing my book and doing all that. And just, taking it easy as we conclude the final week of Black History Month 2026. And then, when I come back, when this show comes back on, it'll be March Madness. And we'll see what happens after that. And as always, be well and be best.
Ernestly Speaking is recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. To stay up to date with the latest on the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mr. Ernest Owens. Use the hashtag Ernestly Speaking to tell me what you thought about this episode, and check out my website at ernestowens.com.